Good evening and welcome to the Monomoy Regional School Committee meeting of June 24th. I would looking for approval of the minutes from June 10th.
So moved.
Second. Thank you very much. Any discussions, comments, corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstention.
Next on the agenda is public comment. Anyone wish to make a public comment?
Good evening. Joan Richardson, Monomoy Regional Education Association President. I'm here tonight to talk about students at the high school. On March 25th, 2015, I attended the school committee meeting where it was stated business classes were not eliminated and would indeed be offered for the 2015-2016 school year. Up until about 2 weeks ago, the plan was for business classes to be offered. Since then, a decision has been made to eliminate business classes at the high school. And of course, administration has the right to determine which classes will run and which classes will not. My concern and the concerns of other teachers who have contacted me is for those students who had planned to take one of those business classes to satisfy their fourth-year math requirement for graduation. With the elimination of the .5 business position and the .4 reduction of a math position, the options remaining for those students may not be appropriate. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Denise Sessler. I've been a math and physics teacher at the Harwich and Monomoy High Schools for 15 years. In my spare time, I'm a consultant for the Department of Education. Over the years, they have called upon my mathematical expertise by requesting I participate in numerous projects where I can make a contribution to the mathematical education of our students at the state and national levels. Prior to teaching, I worked in the private sector as an electrical engineer for 15 years. I have 2 bachelor's degrees, one in electrical engineering, another in the field of education, secondary mathematics. I have 2 master's degrees, an MBA, and the second degree is in education and curriculum instruction and assessment. Tomorrow, I will be ending my career as a teacher as I have officially resigned from my position, effective June 30th. I have found the past 15 years to be the most interesting, challenging, frustrating, exhilarating, tiring, yet still the most rewarding years of my life. I've crossed paths with hundreds of children, some of whom have been your own children and grandchildren. I've found this career to have been a wonderful experience, and I will miss it dearly. I stand before you tonight for a variety of reasons. First, I would like to comment on a few statements some of you have made at previous school committee meetings over the past few months. I would like to first address Mr. Whittaker. Back in March, you stated that there were an awful lot of people worried about the business courses. You asked if there had been changes made to the business offerings. Both Dr. Blanchard and Mr. Carpenter replied that in the end, it will be the students registering for the classes that will drive the courses offered and scheduled. Unfortunately, this was an inaccurate statement. The very simple answer to your question is the business department has been eliminated, as well as the courses offered within that department, despite the fact that 341 students had registered for those courses, with 141 students having made this their primary class choice. That's 25% of our student body. The superintendent will certainly be able to justify the decision he made to cut the position, thus eliminating all the courses within the department However, it does not appear as if the opinions and the concerns spoken by the masses, nor the success of the former Harwich program, were given any credence. It's a shame that administration could not find value in what had previously been such a successful program. Ms. Scott, you were impressed when you saw personal finance as a course that was being offered. You said you wished it had been taught at your high school. You also said that it was a skill that needs to be taught. I couldn't agree with you more, but did you know that because there is no longer a business department, only 25 students will be able to take this course? Reason why is because the course is being taught by a history teacher. Dr. Blanchard told us at a recent school committee meeting that is how Chatham always did it, so that's how we would continue to do it next year. That wasn't the way we did it in Harwich. Since the personal finance class is outside of the history teacher certification, you can only teach one class. That was fine for a small school like Chatham, but Monomoy has an enrollment that is 3 times as large. That means only 25 students for a half-year course. No restrictions on the number of classes offered. Excuse me. In Harwich, personal finance was a full-year course taught by a business teacher. That meant no restrictions on the number of classes offered, and also twice the amount of material taught and learned because it was a full-year course. You're right, personal finance is a very important 21st century skill, yet Monomoy administration has decided to shortchange our children. Eliminating the business department has again compromised the future of our children. Ms. Middleton, you liked the Foundations of Math course that was being offered. You said it was great for the struggling math students. I cannot agree more, since I've devoted the majority of my teaching career to the struggling math student. I was relieved when these courses were added to the program of studies with the intent of them replacing the 4 courses I had created at Harwich, which are all being eliminated. But I'm sad to say that we have now eliminated the Foundations courses from the schedule simply because we do not have enough teachers to staff the classes. To be honest, the math department had to eliminate 8 courses from the original schedule because we simply do not have the staff to support all the needs. Now, you might ask why we don't have enough math teachers to teach these classes, especially when my colleague Jan McRory stood one night at the school committee meeting in February, voicing her concern about the cuts that were being made in the math department. Mr. Carpenter responded unequivocally that the information she had been given was incorrect and that there was no reduction in math personnel. Well, I stand here tonight telling you that tomorrow is my last day and I have not been replaced. Granted, administration is going to tell you that they did offer a part-time math teacher a full-time position, but that still leaves us short by 60%, or staffing of 3 courses. I wonder if that could have saved the Foundations courses. The other reason I stand here tonight is what I will talk to you about now. I'm begging you, the school committee, to ask the administration to reconsider some of its most recent decisions concerning personnel reassignment and cuts, specifically that have taken place in the district. I have firsthand knowledge of what has transpired at the high school, but I assure you it's happening in every school. What I'm going to address are the issues that are going to negatively impact the students I've devoted my entire career to. While I have taught many college prep and honors level courses, it's the lower level classes that I've pulled at my heartstrings. We are all too familiar with the concept that it is rare for any child to be held back at the lower grade levels because of social and emotional stresses. Yet when they reach the high school, they may not have been adequately prepared for concepts and skills that will be taught at that level. That is exactly what happens in math courses. Since math is a language, if the student has not mastered the prerequisite skills required for success in the next course, learning becomes difficult, if not impossible. One of my favorite analogies that helps to put this into perspective is to ask you if you would like to take German 5 without ever having taken German 1, 2, 3, or 4. I don't think so. Well, over the years, I've created courses designed to help the struggling math student. They are my school children. Are you, the school committee, aware that accounting, which has always been a course, they counted as a math credit in Harwich, was just eliminated from the schedule 12 days ago? There were 75 students registered for that course. I had students in my class that had registered for accounting in order to earn their 4th math credit. They are juniors who have to double up on math in their senior year in order to graduate. With the elimination of accounting, they will not have enough credits to graduate. I have questioned what alternative plans have been put into place for my students. I was told that they are considering the possibility of an online course for them. Please understand that math courses are unique. Each course requires successful completion of the previous course. These students are being left no option except the possibility of an online course. They cannot take 2 math courses that are currently in our program of studies because of the prerequisite requirements. Accounting would have worked. Let me tell you that the students who are in this position all need structure and guidance. They are not self-directed learners. Online courses are for those who are self-motivated and can structure their time properly. I do not believe I would classify this particular group of students who need this class as self-motivated and directed. They need a teacher who will stand in front of them, teaching them, challenging them, asking them questions, answering their questions, and listening to them. That is not how an online course works, at least not the courses I've taken. How can we consciously do this to our students? How can an administrative team actually make this decision? What type of message are we sending to the community? Mr. Carpenter has good intentions of increasing the rigor of the math program at the lower levels so that there are more students enrolled in Calculus BC in the future. But he simply cannot ignore the fact that not all students have high achievement in math. I'm telling you, we currently have the same number, if not more, students at the lower end of the math abilities as we do at the upper end. And we simply cannot ignore this issue. We have to create other avenues for success for these kids. We need positions that are being vacated or eliminated to be filled and reinstated to ensure that Monomoy's vision statement of creating a community of learners focused on building knowledge, character, and resiliency in a safe, creative, and challenging environment will be honored. We need proper staffing to ensure the mathematics department vision statement of providing opportunities for all students to develop deep mathematical understanding through the best practices, rich curricular offerings, and cutting educational technologies can be fulfilled. We have already begun to structure our curriculum in that direction. We've increased the number of graduation requirements in math from 3 credits to 4 credits. This becomes effective with our current juniors who will be the next graduating class. However, administration has cut the math staff from 8 to 7. Mathematically, this doesn't work. More students and sections to teach with less staffing. I'm perplexed. This would be similar to taking a new job at a cut and pay, while at the same time taking out an additional loan on your home for an addition. More cost, less income. More students and courses, less teachers. Something doesn't add up. Overall, upwards of 40 staff have chosen to leave the district this year. These are people who love children, who love to see young minds grow and expand. Monomoy High School alone had over 20 people retire or resign. Granted, we all had different reasons, but any rational person would step back and ask, what caused this great exodus? What kind of message does this send into the public, and especially students from other districts that you're trying to attract to Monomoy? Please, I beg of you to ask of the administration what's really going on. Ask for details. Get a straight answer. Don't allow them to skirt around the issue. Get the facts that are supported with documentation. This is the future of our children that's being impacted. Thank you.
I'd like to remind folks that there is a 5-minute amount allotted time per person for comments.
Steve, could I make a point of order?
Yes.
Excuse me. I'll let you speak in a moment. I'm just raising a point of order that I'd like to remind the school committee and perhaps the members of the public and people who are here. Under the open meeting law, the school committee is not allowed to discuss things that are not on the agenda. We have a public comment period in every meeting, and we're very interested in hearing public comments. But I think it's important that the public realize that if at times we do not give a response to questions that are asked to us directly at public comment, it's not out of disrespect, but the fact that it's against the open meeting law. So there are going to be times where, as a result of public comment that we hear, we would be asking our chair to establish an agenda item at a later meeting to discuss a topic. We might, for example, ask that the chair schedule a meeting to discuss the elimination of the business program if we choose to pursue that further. Obviously, Mr. Carpenter, it's up to him whether he chooses to respond or not respond to public comment. But I think it's important for people to realize that it's a violation of the open meeting law for us to discuss amongst ourselves or in public issues raised at public comment if they're not part of the agenda. Just wanted people to be aware of that. Very interested in what you have to say, but don't take it personally if we don't give you a direct response.
Well, that's all right. I have one quick question. Is it all right for you to ask questions of the people who come up and speak?
Well,
No.
it's questionable.
Okay.
Probably not. I think public comment is intended, as an open meeting consideration, public comment is, unfortunately, to some extent, considered to be a one-way street. You're allowed to comment because we don't know what people are going to come in and comment on, so we're not in the position to necessarily have an agenda item. You have our agenda, so obviously if anybody wants to comment on things that are on our agenda, then that's things we will then be discussing, and most likely you'll have a direct response to. But if it's not on our agenda, it's pretty much a one-way street. We're only allowed to listen.
Okay, thank you. My name is Paula McMahon. I'm a past Chatham High School athletic director for 10.5 years, and recently I was an assistant athletic director to Spanky DeManch at Monomoy Regional. I sent this letter today to the school committee members because I have great concern. As members of a very important committee that oversees the future of education for children of Harwich and Chatham, I trust that you will read this letter with sincere interest and concern. Quite recently, I served for 2 years as the assistant athletic director at Monomoy Regional High School with Mr. Paul Spanky DeManch. I also sent a recommendation for Mr. DeManch to Mr. Carpenter when I learned that he would be making the final decision on the important new athletic administrative position. It is an understatement to say that I was shocked and saddened to learn that Mr. DeManch was the runner-up for the AD position, and that he will not continue the work he began at Monomoy Regional High School over 5 years ago. During his tenure, he accomplished many improvements during the early merger of our school athletic programs, while still providing the best practice and game sites available for all of our teams during this transition and the hectic construction of the new school. It was an extreme challenge and a time-consuming process. At the same time, Mr. DeManch was also required to teach some physical education and health classes. He worked with our middle school athletic director as we needed to use Chatham fields and for our regional teams. He also instructed our high school coaches to conduct teaching clinics at the middle school, for the middle school teams. Mr. DeManch had begun the process of introducing a unified booster club. I know this because we applied for a grant to begin the funding for this booster club. It wasn't accepted because the school had been given money 2 years prior, and they thought it was too soon to give us more. He believed that a unified club would provide students and teams with many athletic benefits. Recently, I attended a school committee meeting where Superintendent Carpenter introduced the new administrator, Monomoy Athletic Director Brendan Case, who will direct both the high school and the middle school athletic programs in our district. This is a very challenging position for someone who has worked in another state and is not familiar with the leagues, athletic directors, coaches, teams, or students, both locally and statewide. Our present athletic director, Paul DeManch, has a very good knowledge and rapport of these. And in addition, he was very recently awarded the MIAA District C Athletic Director of the Year, Ted Damko Award. This was voted by his peers in the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association, the MIAA, which directs all of our state interscholastic athletic programs and tournaments. Why would our district want to lose such a well-respected, efficient, and intelligent athletic director and create a new administrative position for a person if he is less qualified? Because I also work with many of Paul DeManch's peers, I can tell you that his peers are asking the same question. Why was this position for an administrator of athletics advertised as bachelor's degree preferred for an administrative position? Mr. Brendan Case was selected to be administrator when it appears that he does not hold a master's degree, has fewer years as an athletic director, and less teaching and coaching experience than our present athletic director, Mr. DeManch. Does Mr. Case hold a Massachusetts educator's license in phys ed and health education? Mr. DeManch holds certification and has no negative evaluations. He is respected. He's a respected, intelligent leader who has performed exceptionally for our district. I encourage all school committee members to ask why Mr. Brendan Case was selected by Mr. Carpenter over Mr. Paul DeManch at this critical time in the union of our district-wide athletic programs. In the recent past, our schools have sent visiting committees to the previous sites of employment of those final candidates seeking administrative positions. We have completed these visitations to learn more about the candidate's performance, accomplishments, and actually see if the candidate would be a good fit for the Monomoy Regional School District. Why did our district not send a visiting committee to the St. Bernard School in Uncasville, Connecticut, where Mr. Case served as their athletic director? I believe the people of Harwich and Chatham deserve to know the answers to the questions in this letter. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Brenda Schofield, and I'm just a parent. I don't work here, but I come here a lot. I'm just a parent, but I was the parent who was chosen in 2006 to serve on the High School Building Needs Committee to determine whether or not we needed to build this beautiful building that we now have. I worked diligently for 19 months to make sure that this happened. I'm the parent who volunteered in every kindergarten class and every class since then. I have a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 10 and a 5 who are coming into the school system or are already here. I've worked very hard as being just a parent. I now have 2 of my 4 children wishing to school choice out of this system, and I'm a little bit angry. I stood on March 25th at a curriculum night, and I spoke before you, Mr. Carpenter, and I introduced you to my daughter, who was very excited to take business classes. You assured me on that evening that the business department would still be here, and I believed you. My daughter signed up for 4 classes. She'll not be taking any because it unfortunately has been demolished. And that makes me a little sad, because since she's not going to receive them, she's now going to another school. I'm wondering if you took into consideration all of the children who are now going to be school choice out of this system as a result of not having a business department. I am perplexed as to how this happened, how we got rid of an entire department. I understand the budget cuts. I work for the town of Harwich. The school's budget is what it is. I get it. And I get that we have to go before the townspeople and we have to ask for certain overrides or for them to approve certain things. I get all of that. I don't understand why we increased other departments and took away an entire department without at least downsizing the classes that were available. I question why we have, and I apologize, Ms. Sessler, I believe the number is now up to 51 people, staff members, who are leaving the Monomoy school system. We also have people that aren't going to know what to do here, and in the fall, I'm extremely concerned because when I walk into the office at this high school, I'm not going to see any familiar faces because all of them are leaving. And I'm wondering who are going to do those jobs, and when they have a question, who are they going to go to? So I'm concerned. Again, I'm just a parent. But I'm a parent who was there for everything. I was that parent. At all the functions, whether or not my kids were there, because I consider all their friends to be my kids as well. And I volunteered throughout the years, and now I'm angry that I'm not going to get to see my kids graduate from the school that I put so many hours into. And I want to know why. Mr. Whittegren, I appreciate the fact that we're not allowed to ask you questions. I appreciate everything that you said. But you said, and I quote, "If we choose to pursue that further." Well, I think this is worthy of being pursued further. I think the decisions that were made, we need to know why. And there may be valid reasons. I don't know because I'm just a parent. But I've heard things, and we all know about rumor. But I know that we have a lot of staff members who are very angry. We have a lot of great staff members who are leaving. We have a lot of wonderful students who are also leaving. I have 9 friends who are school choicing their children to other areas. After tomorrow, they'll be going to other schools. That's a total of 27 students out of all of us. I have 4. I don't want to school choice my kids somewhere else. I want to tell my daughter, no, you're going to finish out, and you're just not going to take business classes. But I also want my children to be able to market and account and know about business, because in the town of Harwich, that's what we run on. I'm sorry, but we do a lot with tourism. And being a firefighter paramedic, I know how many people are here in the summer. We have a lot. And I want my children to stay in this community, and I want them to be able to know what is out there and how to do their jobs. I want them to know how to balance their checking account, and I want them to know the value of $1 so that when I send them off to college, they have some idea as to what I've done to get them there. I would like you all to really think about it. I know that you can't comment. I'm just a parent. But I want you all to think about what we're doing here. I've worked very hard for many years in volunteering, and I know how great this community is. And if I start to see it taken away piece by piece, that's going to be very damaging to our school system. I see staff members that are angry, hurt, mad, and fearful for their jobs. I see students who are pissed and wanting to go to other communities. I don't want that. I want to see them all graduate here. I deserve that at this point. My family deserves that. We've lived here since I was born here. And I would like to see the parents that I talk to also be able to calm down and say, you know what, yeah, okay, we went through a budget crisis, but we're good now. We've kept all of our departments intact, and we're doing the best we can. I'd really like you guys to figure out, I know that culinary had to be increased, but I don't think business should have been taken away. I'm just a parent, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
every time when people speak, pretty much every time, I make a comment. I don't think there's any problem with that without us deliberating. So I just want to thank people for coming and sharing your sincere concerns. Before you leave, whoever the retired math teacher is, I love your name and where you live. And maybe you'll want to run for school committee if you live locally. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is recognitions. And before I hand it over to Mr. Carpenter, I'd just like to say that a week ago tonight, there was a band concert at the Monomoy Middle School, which was very well attended and very well presented. All except for the tuba player. I think he had a little bit of issue in the back.
It's been a long time since
Yes.
I've picked up a sousaphone.
But the fact that there were a lot of staff that joined in with the students was a very, very nice thing.
I want to kind of bump one of the things up earlier in the meeting, just to kind of address it, but and that's the to announce the middle school interim principal, and one of the at least recognitions that I would just sort of like to greatly appreciate is the administrative team and I were sort of dealt an interesting curveball at a very late date in the year, and we as a team approached searching for an interim principal in what I've referred to as very much a reverse process. Typically, as a superintendent, you're not very involved on the front side of the search because you sort of yield and give away that authority to the to groups of parents and staff and sometimes students that are on hiring committees, and they go through a process and ultimately a finalist comes to you. It's late in the year. We didn't have time to have sort of a 6-8 week process take place. So to flip the process completely in reverse, we went and networked. The administrators were calling folks that they knew and encouraging them to apply. We got a number of applicants that came in on school spring. I reached out to some internal candidates as well and spoke with them. And the team, on short notice, just kept getting called in day after day to meet with another candidate and another candidate and another candidate. We had at the end of it, we had 3 strong candidates that I think really emerged of the group that I thought each of them could serve us as an interim, but one stood hands completely, their heads above the others, and that's Mark Wilson. Mark, I went and then invited to come yesterday afternoon to speak with a set of parents and staff that really represent our 2 communities. These are parents that have been very involved in principal search processes and have been very involved in different school groups from both Harwich and Chatham over the last couple of years, and then staff that came to us from Harwich Middle School and Chatham Middle School, and one newer staff person who came to us as Monomoy. And it was from the administrators when we met Mark Wilson, we were really struck by a candidate, and I think we all universally felt that he would have, had he been in the applicant pool a year ago, emerged as a finalist at the end of a process. And absolutely no disrespect to Brian Daniels, who I think has done a great job for us this year. But Mark would have given Brian a run for his money, and there's a good chance I would have selected. Mark had I had 3 finalists before me last year. So we were in a really fantastic place. So after the group of parents and staff members asked questions of Mark, There were, I asked the parents to kind of give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle, where are you with regard to Mark, and the same with the staff. And it was universal that I think everyone was very optimistic about what they saw in Mark. Some of the conversations from some of the parents at the table were, do we even have to go with an interim? And we had conversations on why an interim, and going through that process is important. But I just want to take a moment and introduce the committee to Mark, and invite Mark to come up and say a few words today. But Mark is joining us. He was formerly the Director of Curriculum Instruction for Falmouth Public Schools for a number of years. From individuals we've reached out to at Falmouth, I know Deb Morgan reached out to her counterpart in Falmouth, who referred to Mark as brilliant. I spoke to the outgoing Falmouth superintendent, who and spoke with Mark in completely high regard, and it was just nice to hear anybody we reached out to, even other administrators on the Cape who I've bumped into, and say, hey, Mark was in our applicant pool. They were surprised, and they were rather envious that he chose to apply here. So Mark, prior to coming to Falmouth, was a principal at Knox Trail Junior High in Spencer, Massachusetts. He started his career as a history teacher back in 1985, had a period of time where he was a Fulbright Scholar in Zimbabwe, and really has, I think he struck everyone as having a personality that just brings you in a matter of moments to really connect with him. And you have that combination of connection with a curricular expertise that second to none. And I think we've got the right guy to help us move Monomoy forward. I have offered Mark a 2-year interim position, and I know that some people might consider a 2-year position to be sort of odd. Why not a 1-year position? My concern is that we have had so much turnover from our principals of Chatham and Harwich Middle School to a 1-year principal with Monomoy Regional, that my hope is to see stability in that principal role, and hopefully in the next 2 years to have Mark fall in love with Monomoy, and Monomoy fall in love with Mark, and see him here for years to come. So that being said, I'd like to just turn the mic over to Mark Wilson and let him give a brief introduction.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening, committee members and parents. Thank you. Thank you for that nice welcome. My name is Mark Wilson. I'm the interim principal for Monomoy, and extremely excited to be here. I will share with you that the district has already set before me an incredible task. Tomorrow I'll be meeting the entire student body 20 minutes before they're done and want to head off to summer vacation. The whole student body will be in the gymnasium, and I get the microphone, and they don't know me and I don't know them, and I get to introduce myself to the community through the students and the staff. So I can't wait. It's the type of opportunity that I think is a special way to kind of get introduced. And I look forward to getting to know all the parents and the students and the staff, and working very closely with Scott and the central office team and the school committee to make Monomoy Middle School the best school on the Cape. And if not the Cape, I go beyond that, statewide. It's my pleasure to join you, and I very much look forward to working with you for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for now.
Okay. We have student representative report.
There are no grown-up ones. Can I bring the younger ones?
Student rep, right?
We were kind of hoping that the high school seniors were gone, and maybe the middle school staff were busy with the last couple of things, so I've got some special guests to introduce.
Fantastic.
You see, get the limelight. This place is all to you. They're all going to have it. So we have a student council that meets monthly, class representatives from all the 5 fourth grades, and I'm going to turn it over to our representatives who are here, who've given up their evening, and they got something for it. They got to be the first middle school students to meet their new principal. So they've got some bragging rights, so this will hopefully carry some weight later on. So, Susan, what'd you say?
I was hoping I would be the first one to meet the principal if they came, but I don't care. I know it's the first one. So my name is Frijan, and I'm Melissa. And I'm Caitlin. And we're gonna talk about what's it called? The school years. I mean the fourth grade. The happenings of fourth grade throughout the year, and there was a major earthquake in Nepal, and I'm from Nepal, so that kind of affected me. But we did this shelter box. We raised about 1,000. We raised $1,885, and we raised 2 shelter boxes, and that's real great for me. I'm Melissa, and I'll be talking about all the things that the school store, that the student council did for our school. The first thing we did was we made a school store which supplied all the students with stuff throughout the school year.
Since we don't have step-up day in 4th grade, we had this field day with the Chapman kids to get to know them, and it was very fun.
We celebrated Dr. Seuss's birthday, and we had read all around our school, and we read for 20 minutes. Yeah. And we celebrated his birthday for a little bit. What we had for the 4th graders this year was a Spirit Week. And so on Monday, we had Sports Day. On Tuesday, we had Formal Day. And Wednesday, we had Occupation Day. And Thursday, we had Color Day and Field Day. And Friday was Hawaiian Day.
The 3rd graders do this thing called Exercise the Right to Read. And they run a mile every day for 25 days. For 25 days. And they read 25 minutes every day. And there's this paper sent home that you can raise money and send it in, and it goes to buying new books for the library at our school. And it also benefits the kids that don't have books. We buy books for them.
So what they just shared with some of the ideas, every month when we get together, we would decide what would we do for a school spirit theme that month or the coming month. And there was always something related. Color for Causes in November around the holidays to represent the caring theme that we were celebrating. Valentine's Day, recognizing everybody there. So they would do colors. It would be red and pink and white day. And then Earth Day came around and it's like we should have Green Day, so everybody wore green to represent that we support the earth. And these other ideas came out. And actually the Nepal idea, I remembered our 5th and 4th grade student council years back when Haiti had the earthquake, and we had done a similar activity to bring the school together. And we had family members from Haiti in our school, and we raised enough to send 2 boxes, one to Chile and one to Haiti. And this year, with the support of our brothers and sisters at the high school, we were able to add the $115 that was needed to send $2,000 to Shelter Box USA. And I hope to be able to let you know as soon as the money is received that there'll be 2 boxes with barcodes sent to us, and we can track when they arrive in Nepal and know that they'll be helping our extended families. So they're future leaders. They'll be reporting hopefully to you in the future. They've practiced being chairpersons and secretaries, And they've been a wonderful help, and I just want to show them off this year, so thank you.
I really love this, but I did not get the kids' names, and I'd love them to say their first and last name, because you're sharing something really important, so we'd love to know who you are.
My name is Shrisha Rijal, and I represent Mrs. Benchu's class.
My name is Caitlin Rose, and I represent Mrs. McManaman's class.
My name is Melissa Velasquez, and I represent Mr. Spelcy's class.
And your fellow student council.
We also have 7 other student council members, 2 from each 4th grade class.
Thank you so much.
Next on the agenda is reports and discussions. And first item up is conflict of interest.
So I believe we have something that you had in your packet on a conflict of interest statement that a coach for the school district filled out, Sean Montero. The way the conflict of interest law reads is that there is an ability for someone who potentially could be perceived as having a conflict to get a written determination by the authority that will be over that. In the second, on the second page, is sort of bracketed in the handout that you have, that the authority, being the school committee in this case, could make a decision that there is not enough of a perception of a conflict, and to sort of protect the school district from some sort of challenge from the State Ethics Commission. I think the concern that we have here is that the cheerleading coach is also an employee of Rebel Athletic,
Yes.
which is a supplier of cheerleading uniforms, and it comes down to, can the school district purchase cheerleading uniforms from the company that the cheerleading coach is associated with?
Correct,
Right.
yes,
Summarized it well enough.
yes. I am an independent contractor for Rebel Athletic, and I do make a set sum of money, a salary, if you will. I don't have anything to do with this particular account because I recused myself from the get-go. So I have no more dealings with Rebel Athletic than I would any other cheerleading uniform company. There is no financial gain for myself or the company, honestly, because of the specific program that was discussed about trading in the old uniforms. There isn't a financial gain for the company either, and that is why I sent the notice in. So, in essence, I think that for us to get uniforms from any company for the price that we got, which was roughly $3,200, compared to the other quotes that I've received, which were $5,000, $6,000, did not offer anything similar to the same trade-in program. Seems like a no-brainer to me. I have more information if you need it, but the general idea was that there is not a financial gain, so therefore there isn't a conflict of interest.
You're Ms. Montero, I assume.
Yes, I am.
I've reviewed the paperwork that you submitted to us, and you mentioned in your presentation that you do intend, as the coach of the cheerleading people, that you intend to purchase uniforms from the company that you work for.
That was the idea, yes, mainly because it was the best price.
Well, that was my question.
Yes,
So,
it was the best price. It
Can you
was-
give us an idea of what process you went through to determine that?
I did contact 3 or 4 other companies in addition to Rebel Athletic. I have pictures and quotes and prices from the other companies, all of which are at least $1,000 to $3,000 higher than the price we got from Rebel Athletic. The price from Rebel has nothing to do with my affiliation with them or the fact that I'm a contractor with them. It's would be given to one of my assistant coaches if they were buying them, or Nauset if they were buying them. It's just the program they have.
How often do you anticipate needing to purchase uniforms?
We really don't purchase them that often. It's usually about every 4 or 5 years or so. What we have now is an abundance of cheerleaders, which is great. More cheerleaders than I have uniforms for. And the current uniforms we have are in some disrepair. We've worn them for both fall and winter every year, and the uniform has been discontinued. One of the benefits of buying the uniforms from Rebel Athletic is they don't discontinue uniforms. So that if down the road we needed to get 4 or 5 more, we could order just 4 or 5 more without them saying, sorry, it's unavailable now. Companies do that specifically, so then you have to order a whole new set.
So, Mr. Russell, there's still a chance for you.
Absolutely.
There definitely is.
42 regular. Is there a motion?
Are there any other questions?
Any further discussion? Any other questions?
I'll make a motion.
Is this something we take under advisement, or do we actually?
I'll make a motion.
I would assume that the authority in this case would need to make a motion. We had something similar where I think the only other time that as a school district that we've had something similar, a member of the building committee was interested in conducting business with Monomoy Regional, and because under that, the authority is actually the selectmen. The member of the building committee went to the Harvard selectmen to go and discuss her situation and intent, and the selectmen felt in that case that there wasn't conflict, and she was allowed to proceed to submit her name as an architect to work on a project for us.
Yeah, I make a motion that the,
I think Bill might just have a quick.
oh, sorry.
Thank you. I just want to commend Coach Montero for her diligence on this. It's good for kids. You asked about the process, so I wanted to comment because I was involved. Initially, I was well aware, and full disclosure, Coach had told Mr. Demanch and I that she was part of the business, that she would have no involvement, far removed, and we were doing about such a great deal to consider. So we went by the book, we got the 3 quotes. We didn't look at more because I didn't want anything to be sticky here and look shady. But I wanted what was best for kids. When the prices came back, and it was so overwhelming and positive for our budget, for our kids, and there was no connection. I was assured that by the company, that Ms. Montero had anything to do with the sale or to benefit from the sale from these uniforms, and we were saving thousands of dollars. I support it. So that's my 2 cents. Again, I appreciate Coach for going through this, because it's not going to earn her money. She's not buying them. She's not making any money. It's a school budget issue. I fully support it. I would stand behind in front of any committee and validate that there's no foul play. It's above board and it's good for kids. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Duval, I make a motion that the Monomoy School Committee make the determination that the financial interest of this employee is not so substantial as should be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the committee might expect from the employee. And I would further move that as part of our approval, that the chair provide such written document as required by 268A, Section 19, to carry out the determination of the committee.
Do you have a second?
A second.
Any discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank
So
you very
voted.
much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the school committee's meeting schedule, which is in your packet. You'll notice that we have one meeting per month, the next 2 months, and in November, December, it's scheduled as just one meeting. I will point out that December may get an extra meeting based upon budgetary process. Is this something we need to approve? Sharon?
Usually in the summer, or in recent past, we've had like a workshop or something. Would we be able to schedule that in addition to this? Because I guess there's less to do in the summer, and maybe too, if it came up that we needed another one, we could always do it with a 2-day notice, right?
The retreat is normally scheduled outside of our normal meeting schedule. It gets posted on the website.
I definitely intend to, at some point this summer, preferably somewhere earlier in August, find a time that's conducive for the administrative team to come together with the school committee to share some of our work that we'll be doing this summer on sort of strategic planning and begin a conversation with the committee.
I'm just a little concerned because the dates are so far spaced, like, it's not so much that there's two, but one is July 8th, which is pretty quickly, and then another one is August 26th, which is practically when school's opening, so I'm just a little concerned if something went on in the middle of it.
The reason behind it is we're having July 8th because we have to make any determinations for the year-end close at the end of this month before July 28th. And having it on August 26th allows us to make any adjustments or changes prior to school starting.
When would we be approving or look, the program of studies usually comes to us, when is that? Is that
Student handbooks or program of studies? The program of studies happen in the early spring every year. We've had student handbooks, at least in the past years, if there have been revisions come to the committee during the summer or in the first days of the school year.
okay? It would be, I would really like the student handbooks. Usually they don't change hardly at all, but if we could have them, a good bit ahead. In, like sometimes these things come to us and like they needed them yesterday before they even come to us. So, I'm just not sure about that. But then I also wondered, with all of this, whether there might be changes with the program of studies that we might need to approve.
Well, I think the program of studies is sort of the curriculum and what courses will be developed. So that's, I think there are conversations that we've been having about courses that we would like to see evolve, and that kind of gets wrapped into budget conversation in terms of what are we going to be trying to focus money on to see grow in program of studies too.
What I'm saying is, will all that be done, so we'll have it way in advance of July 8th, so we'll know, because we as a body have to approve changes. Yes, I think so. Changes of program of curriculum, and not curriculum itself, but changes of things is in the purview of school committee.
So, but the program of studies is an early spring timeline on when we do that. I think you might be mixing the student handbooks that I actually think are going to have far less changes. The last couple of years we've been melding student handbook from Harwich High School and Chatham High School into the new regional high school. I think our handbooks for the two elementary schools, the middle school and the high school, are going to have limited changes compared to
last year where it was sort of here's the two and how we brought them together.
Okay, so we can just submit things for that July 8th meeting, and if there's too many things to take care of in that, we'd have to set another one. Is that correct? Okay.
Next on the agenda is the subcommittee assignments. Has everybody thought long and hard about what fun they want to have? I guess not.
Steve,
Ready to be
Steve,
assigned.
could you go, because there were some, we had that, and unfortunately, I didn't bring my copy of what we received, I think, last time maybe, of what the committees were, because,
The last two meetings, we've handed out the template with the blanks.
right, I don't have mine today. But some of them were defunct, pretty much, right? So,
Those are the committees I like to join. Subcommittees. Pass mine into you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
okay.
Why don't, at the end of our meeting, I will make a copy of this, and if you would please fill it out and put on it which committees you would like to be on, and hand it in to Barbara. She will collect.
Okay, my question is that any we want to be on, we can be on, or should we discuss it now?
Put your first choices down. If everybody who wants to be on one subcommittee, we can't do that, so.
Right. So could we put this down and then bring it back so we know what everybody wants and discuss it next time then?
Well, that was what we were supposed to do tonight, but obviously we weren't prepared to, so we'll move that forward.
Okay, thank you.
Next on the agenda is workman's compensation statute, chapter 152, section 69.
This is largely a quick housekeeping thing. The recommendation of our legal counsel is that we should accept appropriate provisions for the workman's compensation insurance pursuant to Massachusetts law. This is something that I think ideally the district should have done as it was coming together as Monomoy, but hadn't, so we just want to make sure that we go through the proper motions.
Yeah, well, I'll make the motion, then we'll discuss it.
Very good.
I move the school committee accept the provisions of chapter 152, section 69 with regard to workers' compensation insurance provisions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I think we actually did this in the first year that we formed. I have a memory of it, so
Maybe I have no recollection.
They went back and double checked
they must have done some other school committee. I was on,
Right.
but, yeah.
Well, that school committee's defunct,
Yeah,
so might as well do it again.
but I have no problem with doing it again. It's certainly something that's absolutely necessary to do to make sure that we have the appropriate insurance coverage for our valued employees.
And seeing how we're paying the bill on these warrants, it would be a good idea to
Yeah,
approve
good
this.
to have it approved it before we pay the bill.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Now, I think I have to abstain, Steve. Steve, I think I don't know if I can vote on this, so I'll just abstain.
From workman's comp?
I'm not sure, because I have a relative that's hired for
Okay.
the district.
Next on the agenda is Cape Cod Collaborative Agreement. Mr. Whitaker.
Yeah, did everyone receive a copy of the Cape Cod Collaborative Agreement? By email? Did anyone receive a copy of the Cape Cod Collaborative? Well, I guess we'll have to put that on the July. Okay. Everyone was supposed to have received it from the Cape Cod Collaborative so that we could discuss it tonight. Apparently, no one did. So I'll find out what went wrong. We look real good tonight, don't we?
Next on the agenda is school improvement plans and goals.
Yes, what I'd like to do is just invite each of the principals one at a time to share conversations that they've been having with school councils about directions they see their school heading next year. Part of this is also we did a parent survey asking parents what are we doing well, what can we do better. That the themes that emerged in that survey of parents have been incorporated into some of the goals that the different buildings have. So why don't we start at the high school and we'll head down to the elementary schools.
Thank you, everyone, and for those of you that don't know me, I'm Bill Burkett, principal at Monomoy Regional High School. In our first couple meetings here, if you were here, it was pitch black. We had to almost get candles, if you recall, and I promised that by the end of the year our lights would work. So I want to take credit for that. I did not promise that the AC would work, but I do promise by next December it would be nice and cool again. That being said, I just wanted to, there's some heavy stuff brought out tonight that I do want to address some of those things because I believe I have some answers to some things, and I also want to recommend to any parent, community member, school committee, elected officials, if they have any concerns about our school, particularly because I can only speak about our school, to reach out to me and meet me personally. And I will explain to you in detail the decisions we've made because I take full responsibility for this high school. I stand by it. It is a great school. It will be the best school in the state. We're well on the way, and I'm going to share some of that information here. So I'm going to back up and say some of the things that Ms. Schofield brought up pain me because as a very involved parent, one of our best, and they're all great, but so active. Some of her best claim to fame, if you don't know, she is on our district video. She's on there, so that may be a lady role somewhere down the line. I will take some credit for it, but thank you for doing that. And she was on the hiring committee that spent a lot of time and work to hire me, so I owe it to her to answer some questions and provide that. So I'm going to explain a little bit about the scheduling process and how we do that, and how we came to the determination about the business courses. And we'll talk about the business as a program. It was down to a half a teacher, unfortunately, with a handful of classes, which were excellent. Anytime you cut any classes, it hurts, it stinks, and it's falling. So I feel that pain. What we are doing, those handful of students that need that for college credit, guidance counselors are contacting parents now. The schedules are in the process of being worked on by them, contacting parents, to work with those kids and make sure that we do whatever it takes to get them to graduate, get them support, so they won't be left behind. There's no question about that. So I feel rest assured in that statement. As far, and I'll get to the scheduling process and how we do that, how we make decisions. It's not the only department where classes weren't run. Every department was hit. And the next step of our scheduling process is that the counselors send the schedules out to become available to the parents. And we'll have an open window a couple weeks in August for all parents. Some schools just do if you don't have what you have, requirements you need for college, you come in and see us. We're going to open it up to all parents to come in and talk one-on-one with their counselor. I'll be available and work that schedule up. And knowing that in the schedule, you're never going to get everything you want. And I think we have so many what we call singletons and business courses, and one of those, the more that you can only offer at one time, one class with one teacher, it goes up against other choices that make it difficult to schedule everyone. So there's a lot of complex things that I can speak to in more detail with any parent, and I will do that. As far as the athletic director position, as a former athletic director, I want to talk about our process. Coach Mansh has been a friend of mine for many years. We go back, we coached against each other, and we coached with each other. He was the coach of the Shrine team in Massachusetts, and I was his assistant. I learned a lot from him, so I respect him tremendously. It's painful when you don't get that job, but I do want to give a little history on that, just so everybody knows how that process went, and it's out in the open, with as much information as I can get. As a former athletic director, I had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Carpenter and Mr. Daniels about lack of consistencies with the middle school program into our high school, with hiring processes, with field use. Our AD would have to call their AD, and who was part-time, and find out when the field was being used, and talk to both principals, all that extra work. Lack of consistency. And our AD was teaching at the time, And my recommendation was that we go to an administrative position, remove the teaching classes, let that athletic director be full-time as an administrator, work with both schools, have consistency in hiring, scheduling, and have one voice. Schools that do it well, and it works. And I think it'll work very well here. So that's the concept. It was a very new job with new responsibilities. So I think most people would be horrified and appalled if we slid the current AD, either one in their current roles, into that role without a thorough search and investigative process, an interview process, because that's the good old boy network. And we did not do that. We opened the position up. We put together a very diverse collection of individuals representative of both middle school and high school, including parents, coaches, teachers, colleagues in this building, in the middle school, administrators, and the athletic trainer. Anybody that would come in contact with that program was on that committee. It was about 13 people. We had 59 applicants. It was a popular job. It's a good job. It's a big job. We paper screened down to 11. Typically, you interview 5 or 6. We interviewed double that. And the process that we did that, so you know, is that whole committee got together in one whole meeting for a few hours. And we put up on the board, and I credit Mr. Daniels for this process, he facilitated it. Each person went up quietly without talking and put all the characteristics they thought valuable and invaluable as an athletic director. We all put them up there, and then we all stepped back and we looked at things that overlapped and were common, and we came with a very clear list of what we all wanted. And when we were finished that, we sat down and had a discussion on what questions we would ask that would bring that up in the interviewees or the person that would best fit that job. And I say the word fit because that's what it is. Who can fit what we want in this position to do the job? So based on that, we interviewed 11 candidates. We had a rubric. We had discussions after each, and it took 2 long, full days. So I want to thank the committee for that. It was not easy. Several internal candidates. Never easy either. You have to consider that. 3 candidates will move forward to Mr. Carpenter, and I will state right here that Brendan Case overwhelmingly, in fact unanimously, was supported by everybody as the dominant pick because of his background and experience in middle school, high school, building programs from scratch, increasing numbers, all the things we're dealing with right now. Middle school experience and his current enrollment in a leadership/licensure course for administration, which we would eventually like people to evaluate our teachers. Mr. Carpenter that interviewed those 3 candidates took that into consideration and validated what the committee had discussed. So there, I think we've made a great choice, and I'd like Mr. Case to have a chance to do his job before we bring out some negatives, and I would like that to be the future moving forward, how we roll here. So I will say, I've met with him on several occasions already. He's bright, he's passionate, he's driven. It reminds me a little bit of how I started. He's ready to roll, and he'll do great things. And so will Coach Dimitri, who we're lucky to have here. So I think I wanted to clear that up so that there's no cloud or wet judgment. We've got good people here. It's not an easy decision, but I stand by it. I stand by the committee, and it wasn't just Mr. Carpenter. It was a collection of very thought-out discussions and interview process, and one of the best processes I've been part of, and I think Mr. Daniels will agree with me. So now I want to get to the school improvement plan, because with a lot of the heavy stuff, I'm an optimist, and my simple quote for this year, because I'm really tired, that change is hard. It's real hard. And that was by Anonymous, that's an actual quote. And every staff member, student, and parent has lived that this year. And people are tired, they're upset, they're angry, they're happy, but they're ready for a little summer break. That's why I'm fortunate that in Massachusetts we have summer break, because we need it. And there's been a lot of change, and the numbers have been thrown 50, 20. We had budget cuts, we had early incentives that were really good deals for people that were close to retirement. So I want to put that out there too. I don't want it to sound like people are fleeing, and some may be. And this is the vision here, and if they don't agree with that and they can retire and do so, tomorrow we'll thank them for having a cookout. We really appreciate their service. But I will share some processes that we've incorporated this year that I think you often hear me say, what makes our school great? Not just good, what makes us great? And that's what I'm going to share now. And as the guy that brags about being a tech guy, I don't have a PowerPoint, because quite honestly, the way things have been working in here this year, I relied on paper. So I'll read this, and I can make copies available to folks that get tired of listening to me talk. But I start out with thriving school culture. And with a quote, "The nature of relationships among the adults within a school has a greater influence on the character and quality of that school and on student accomplishment than anything else." Roland Barthes, who was the first book I read on principalship of a veteran local principal and teacher. And with that, I want to share an email that I just got recently, and I want to give a quick story, if I don't want to go too long. The beginning of the year when we had a schedule that was very tough and difficult, a lot of kids not scheduled, and teachers working out of boxes, there was still a lot of excitement about kids coming here, and there still is. I got school choice applicants just yesterday, so people aren't fleeing. If they are, people are coming. So it's not doom and gloom in that respect. So here's another perspective from another parent that I think is important. I get these regularly. I do share them with our staff. We started something called a shark shutout that's caught in wind. It has been very contagious at our school, in spite of it being a very difficult year. And this parent has given me permission to read this. Backstory. So Mr. Gifford came in and saw me meeting, and he said, we have a family that's coming from Colorado. They're moving in, they're going to keep their house there, they have monies to purchase or rent or whatever to come down here. They want their daughter to get the best education, and Massachusetts provides that. So they researched all the schools in the Cape, and they chose Monomoy. So now we fast forward to the end of our first year, and I want to share this email from this parent, if I might. Mr. Burkhead, I wanted to thank you and your faculty for making the past school year an amazing one for our daughter Meg. We were living in Colorado and just decided to pack up and move to Cape a couple of weeks ago before the school started. We had heard the Massachusetts schools were good schools, so we thought, let's have Meg experience one for a year. She was born and raised in Colorado, so she was very willing and wanted to try a school back east before she left for college. From the moment I made a call to Monomoy Regional High School and spoke to Mr. Gifford in the counseling office, this move has been life-changing for our family. The academic rigor is exceptional here. The teachers all seem to really want Meg to learn the material, not just be able to take a test. Meg has learned how to study, to write papers, how to comprehend difficult course material, and how to ask for help and get help when it's needed. These are all skills that will help her in college. Meg has just flourished with all the extracurricular activities Monomoy Regional High School has to offer. Monomoy Regional High School does a great job of providing clubs and sports so kids can check them out and see what they want to enjoy in life. Meg comes home every couple of weeks involved in something new that she has never tried before, like peer mediation, best buddies, tennis, and field hockey next year, just to name a few. So, since this year was so amazing for Meg, we have decided to stay one more school year and have Meg graduate from Monomoy Regional High School instead of her home school back in Colorado. We never expected to stay more than one school year, exclamation point. However, Monomoy Regional High School will do a better job preparing Meg for college, and that's what is most important. I want to let you know I am so impressed with how you have led the school, how the teachers teach, and how the students step up to the standards you put out there. Thank you, Ann Al. So I edited a little bit. She had named several of our great teachers in there, but I want to credit them for doing that to inspire a parent to share that. Again, that's not the only one, but I think that's more common than not. The next one I put on there is the culture committee. We have a committee of teachers, open enrollment, that come in to talk about the culture of our school. We value it that much. That started before I came here, and it's continued. And the way I judge that is we had a meeting last week, and now we've had a tough year. It's hard work. We have a culture committee meeting. Who's going to want to come and talk culture on an 80-degree sunny day at 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock in a warm library? We had our biggest turnout. We had about 13 people there. And we talked about our enrichment program for next year. And we had 3 volunteers from that committee, teachers that are volunteering to do extra hours. That I'll touch on what that's all about, to implement and structure our enrichment courses next year. So that's the work that's going on here by our teachers above and beyond. So I wanted to point that out. Our PLC work, which the quote referenced there, we got to a point after doing a lot of the unpacking and literally and figuratively our new school, we got to the time where our time together, at the end of the Wednesdays, was spent with our departments. And I'm going to share some of the things that were accomplished during that and give you a little bit of an example. But every department head and many more teachers, when that first day happened, when they could get together and were able to talk about their craft, their content, their teaching, they were blown away. Not many schools offer that time during the school day and beyond. So that started to kick in, and it was received very well. We haven't even gotten to the place we need to be as far as structuring that, and that's will be some summer work in our department heads, sharing that vision and what those programs look like. But the true PLC is when that sprinkles out into the school and is talked about in the teacher's room, is talked about by the kids, the adults, and they all share the same vision, and that's kind of the goal for next year moving forward. Student survey. Again, not a lot of schools do this, or if they do, may not act on it. I thought very clearly during the middle of the year it was important that we ask our kids what they thought was a great school, what we needed to work on. Same questions we always ask. And I wanted to share another excerpt from some of our student leaders here that will have already left our school and are graduating, and a few that are class officers next year, and what their thoughts are of the survey. Dear Mr. Burkhead, thank you for giving Ann and I the opportunity to discuss the student survey to the school. I am so grateful to go to a school that truly values students' voices. We won't let you down. Sincerely, Lane Katowski, Jessica Wilson, Anna Milan, Heidi Friedel, and the Interact Club. And why they stated that is because after we took the student survey, a small committee of kids took those data, dug in deep. Culture committee on our end, the adults did the same thing. So it wasn't a top-down, Burkhead's going to give it out. They dissected, then the two groups met, students and adults, talked about them, then we shared it at a faculty meeting and gave some feedback and allowed the whole faculty input. And now we're implementing some of those strategies, which I'll share in a little bit. And some of it's reflected in our schedule. So the kids were very happy to have some say. Did everything they want, they implemented, not yet. But just some simple low-hanging fruit. The seniors were very annoyed that they couldn't have privileged parking out back. They put it on they put it on the survey. They said, there's plenty of spots, go count them. I did. They were right. And so they could park back there. And they loved it. Simple thing, but I wouldn't have known unless I asked. So that, just simple thing. You see the small seating out there, I don't think it's school allowed to say bar stools, but, bar stools, and they built, we can edit this, right, Jim? So, but anyways, the seniors asked for their own space that just seniors could get together and have lunch before school. So those black stools and tables out there were for seniors only. Part of the survey, we implemented that pretty quickly, pretty easily. So it was a nice thing to do. So many more examples of that to come, but we are acting on that survey data regularly, and a lot of the decisions we make is at the forefront. Friday Focus, many of you hopefully are able to read that. As we've heard tonight, sometimes when there's rumors or discussions out there, when a school does not take control of its news and share up front, be proactive, misinformation gets out there. So our Friday Focus is one attempt in the first, and next year it'll be much improved because we have a TV director coming on board that ensured me that we can get it on our TVs, we can get out to public access, and we can really make this thing explode so all Cape Cod residents can see it. So that's just a newsletter that we do. Again, it's really nothing I do. I just ask people to share stuff. Parents are now sharing items. The teachers have done a great job sharing. It takes a lot of work to write things up, take pictures, send them to me, and all I do is put it together, send it out on a Friday. And so I appreciate that, and I hope you do as well. But that's communication to the community. Program of studies process, I won't belabor every point here, but teachers, administrators, everyone works together on the program of studies. It changes every year. It's a work in progress. Last year we had a really robust program of studies. The problem with offering everything in the world is when you start to schedule that, there's too much and there's not enough kids to fill all the courses. What we did is we went back to the drawing board this year. The department heads sat down, went over each course, met with the teachers during PLC time, broke down which courses, how many kids took what, looked at the data, and said, okay, what can we run this year, what can't we run? That's where it starts, and that's where the program of studies comes from. And next year that'll be the same thing. And it'll include, obviously, the other kinds of business courses. How do we do that the best? What are the best schools? How are they providing instruction? Is it a standalone, so it can just be cut if a teacher is not there? Or is it embedded in the math department, let's say, where it's protected? So I think that's some of the vision moving forward so that it's not lost forever. Because I hear loud and clear that's important to people. The scheduling process. Just a little bit on that because that's an example of the collaborative culture. And I'll backpedal and be honest, with a year ago when I got the job and we were kind of doing the schedule by email, and it's a very complicated thing. And if done wrong, it can really have ramifications. And last year it wasn't done the best, and it's nobody's fault, it's just everybody coming together. And You know, I know Ms. Thing is in the audience right here. She spent most of her summer sacrificing to get that done, and it got done. But it wasn't done correctly with our input to give to her. So we had kids not scheduled, and that's part of the concern last year is, you know, growing pains. We got through it, okay? And I appreciate the parents and the kids that got through that, took classes they may not have completely agreed with. Now, rest assured, the process changed this year. It started a lot earlier, okay? We involved, now that we had department heads. Department heads, the first part of the process is we develop program studies. Once we agree upon that, we get the department heads to go and to talk to their teachers, to say these are the courses we're running, you know, what do you like to teach, what's your comfort zone, and they work it out because they're the professionals. So each department talks about, these are the courses we're offering, the kids choose the courses, these are the courses the kids have chosen. How do we cover all that? What can we teach this year, or what might have to wait a year and be taught next year? And some of that, so teachers are involved from the ground up in the process. It comes back to the administration, we work on it. This year we broke the thing down completely from scratch and built it. Literally built it from ground up. Hundreds and hundreds of hours. You know, again, Holly spent hundreds and hundreds of hours implementing something that we had to do all over again. And it changed from 8th period to a 7th period. Let's be honest, not easy, right? But it's a real good schedule right now. We're in a lot better place. For example, guidance counselors have it in their hands right now. They're working out conflicts. A conflict is when the kids don't have everything they need, or there's too many classes. You know, last year we were doing that in August. They're doing that now. Teachers have their schedules before they leave. They know what they're teaching. They know what period they're teaching. They're excited about that. And I'm happy to say, I think 100%, maybe 99.9, if there's someone I might have missed, have their own classroom next year. A very fundamental thing that's rarely repeated in any school. And I want to thank Mr. Almo for doing that, breaking down every room. We're moving desks, we're moving classrooms, we're really getting creative. But every teacher now has their own space to work out of. Huge. Something you would think happens naturally, in most schools it does not. It didn't happen this year. So hopefully that's a nice thing for teachers, and I think they would agree. The teacher and hiring process, and I referred back to here, you know, everything this year we did from scratch. That's why we're all tired. The good news is a lot of it we won't have to repeat next year, we just make better. In the hiring process, I'll never forget, I went into the department heads and said, okay, we've got some positions to fill. Every spring this happens. We've got some retirements, we have to replace some people. Okay, so I threw out the challenge to the departments. How do we do that? I first stated that the hiring of a teacher is one of the most important things that I do as a principal, that we do as a staff, right? All research shows that a teacher in front of your kids has more impact than I do. So back to our philosophy on why are we the best school in the state, and what decisions do we make to ensure that we have the best teachers in the state here, and not just go off to a beautiful town. Cape Cod's beautiful, we have a beautiful school. We wanted more, we wanted in depth. We're going to have the best teachers too. And we do, but we have to replace them with best teachers. So they came back, and together, with teacher input, and the only criteria they came up with was we want all our teachers to have the ability to be involved. We want our students to have the ability to be involved. And that's what we're all about here. So let me tell you how that process works. We have a screening committee, the department head that's competent in that subject area, an administrator, maybe two, myself, Mr. Almo, and Ms. Blanchard, the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. All paper screened. Look for credentials, look for experience, look at fit, look at Monomoy people. And they screen them. And the good news is we've had a lot of applicants. We're not shy on applicants. People want to come here. And it's evident by the applicant pool. And maybe there's not a lot of jobs, I don't know. That's how I judge it. So anyways, we paper screen. We take that seriously. It's not one person doing it. It's 3 or 4 eyes on it to a consensus. These people who cut the mustard, they can at least reserve a seat in front of our committee for the next phase. The next phase is they're brought in and interviewed. Who's on that interview team? Well, any teacher in the department that wants to be. You want to interview this person, you want to have a role, you want to volunteer, you can do it. We've had great turnouts. We want to involve our teachers. A lot of schools, it's one teacher the principal picks, it's one of this, it's one of that. Any teacher that wants to has a say in their new colleague, and that's important. So that's been well received, and the teachers turn out in high numbers for that process. An administrator, Dr. Blanchard, has sat in on these as a Director of Curriculum Instruction. I think that's important. And they go through a rigorous interview process. Most schools there, the next step is to meet, recommendation, 1 or 2 people go to the principal interviews, makes a recommendation to the superintendent. The funnel goes up, not at Monomoy. This is where we are different. First of all, we allow all our teachers process. The next thing we do is we invite the finalists, whether it's 2 or 3, we typically top it off at, because we talked about education is one of the few professions where you actually hire someone before you see them do the job. And that wasn't acceptable. It's tough over the summer sometimes, but we were in spring. So we invited them back, and our teachers gave up some of their class time, and we had them teach to our students. Well, any teacher that could and wanted to, again, had another chance if they couldn't make the interview. Now they could come in and see their possible colleague, future colleague, have a say, see them actually teach kids. A rubric was developed by our English department to screen the applicants, so it was for consistency. And our students, and again, it started out, kind of just happened, our student, one of the teachers that had the first interviews, started taking notes what the students had to say, put it on the board and email it to me. That was a lot of work, I appreciated that. Then we said, why don't we just give the kids the rubric? So we did. When each applicant was done, the teachers evaluated the teaching of that lesson, and the students evaluated the teaching of that lesson. Those documents came back to myself, Dr. Blanchard, and Mr. Monomoy. We evaluated the first interview information, the rubrics, what the kids say, and what the teachers said. And I'm happy to say pretty much 100% of the time, we haven't had a case that has where everything lined up where the same person was the one. We also, as part of that journey, as best we could, when the candidate came back for that interview, we welcomed them to have lunch with our teachers. I think it's very important that we not only want the candidate to be here, we want them to want to come. And if they go and they sit at lunch and they don't like the culture, they don't like what's being talked about, they can choose not to be here. They'd rather have it done then later. So they have lunch with our teachers, they're taken on a tour of the building, and then they meet with me briefly to get the questions answered, and then we go through the second process. And we make a recommendation, a well-vetted recommendation. Pretty much every teacher that meets with me that's gotten through that has said, wow, I'm exhausted. Is this a principal job or what are we doing here? And my simple response is, no, this is how much we value picking our teachers. So I wanted to share that, and it was lengthy, but again, something that's taken a lot of work, something new, it's something that's not being done in a lot of places, to ensure that your children have the best teachers in front of you, ones that are excited to be here because they've been here and they've had lunch with they met our kids, they've had lunch with our teachers, and our teachers have picked them, along with administration and superintendent. So it is a great thing. We've had several teachers from other districts interview here. We had one today, I met with Mr. Carpenter from a neighborhood district. And we said, why are you leaving that district? And she said, because Monomoy is the place to be. The word's up. That's from a teacher, okay? And that's not the first time I heard it. So I wanted to share that. The other thing, and I'll go real quick because I don't want my colleagues to get too upset. I'm taking all the time here. Grade 8 and 9 transition process, again, I can't, and again, we were victims of this a little bit this year, and I apologize, victim of circumstance for all incoming 8th and 9th grade kids and parents who didn't have the luxury of having this transition plan. We just didn't have it. We just were started. But to have them come in, and they've really been resilient in getting through all the change and the new stuff, so that was hard for them, and I think, they'll be better for it, but we want to improve on that. So we have a 6-point transition plan, beginning with me going to the middle schools with Mr. Gifford, introducing myself personally to all the middle school students. They recently came up and had a half a day here, in which our students completely led that day, icebreakers, tours of the buildings, question and answer with our students, and they got to see school during session. That's the best time, and that's when I do all my tours. We've got nothing to hide here. I want the kids to see the real deal, talk to the kids. They ate lunch with our kids. And I did want to share this because I think, initially the middle school teachers coming over, what we're going to have them do, and I talked to Mr. Janice, yes, no responsibilities, our kids will run, just have them hang out and kind of go along. And I was pleased to see at lunch that, Ms. Gifford and the rest of the teachers were at lunch kind of catching up with former students, sitting down eating lunch with them, having fun. I didn't realize that it would have such a positive impact on the teachers as well. That day was awesome. It's the day as a principal, you just feel real good. And the kids were happy. It ended with a picture out the field where they with their bodies, they spelled out 2020. We'll have that, and we'll start a collection of that with every class that comes in. The last couple of pieces of that transition plan will be any student or parent that may have had some anxiety or didn't like a big group tour or wanted that needs some special attention. Myself, Mr. Olmo, and guidance counselor will do personal tours upon request over the summer. We want every kid to know the building, know the culture, and be excited to come here. It's hard enough coming in 8th grade. And then the final thing, a day or two before school starts, before all the kids come, we're going to invite the kids back again and have a little carrot for them because, I don't know, I've got a couple high school kids, I don't know if they want to come back to school a day early voluntarily. In some cultures, that's torture. So we want to give them their Chromebooks that day. We want to give them their schedules that day. And let them just go find their locker, check the combination out, who's in their class, right? All these questions kids are excited about. We're going to let them just come and play and do that. Meet their teachers and have lunch. And then, and again, student-led, have the kids, our leaders here, connect and lead them. And then finally, we wrap it up with a parent pickup in the auditorium because, as a parent that just went through this, the parents are going through this now with my daughter in college, going to colleges, we're just as anxious. So a parent question and answer with counselors, teachers, administrators there. What are you worried about? We have to bring, markers tomorrow. What do we need? What are the lunches going to be? How do we do? All those parent questions will be answered in person. And parents are allowed to take a tour and look at the schedule, and if they want to walk around and do that as well. So very comprehensive plan. I think, again, we're trying to separate ourselves from any other school and make sure that parents and kids are happy and welcome and comfortable being here. And then, of course, I never leave this out to have fun. And as a principal, I try to find ways to say yes, not no. And when I say no, it's difficult, but it's part of my job, and I have to do it. But my thought process always is how to say yes. So that's my mentality with that. Glide through some of the rest of this. Hard work is on the next page, and I like this quote by Thomas Edison. Opportunities missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. I don't think anybody works harder than the staff. I will tell you that right now. I am really proud of them. Some of them aren't happy. I get that, but they work hard nevertheless. They all deserve credit. I've heard not once, twice, probably by every teacher here, I never worked harder. And that will probably happen again next year because the standard is going to be as high, but we're going to remove all these obstacles they had to deal with this year. So they're working really hard on their passion, which is teaching the kids. So that's my job, to make sure to remove those obstacles, and some of them we heard tonight. And now leading into the vision of the future. Our school council met a few times this year. It was more informational to give them information and to get questions and answers. I hope that will begin to develop our plan for next year in more specifics. But this is just some of the goals here. And what I talk about there is just the vision reflects on your schedule. When you talk about a schedule, I'm a firm believer that the schedule is a reflection of your philosophy as a school. Simple, so what are you talking about? It's just putting kids in classes. And I want to just point out what that means to me and to our staff and to our kids. Next year, we have 8th graders here, very unique in high school. As a former middle school principal, what works really well in middle school? Teaming. Having the same five teachers with seeing the same kids, having time together to talk about those kids and to help those kids. And then to have time during the school day to meet with parents. We didn't have that this year. And it's really hard to kind of work that in the schedule. We did it. It's here. It's happening this year. We're excited about it. The teachers are excited about it. It's really cool. And I just put some of the benefits of that, and you can read that over. We offer something unique here, a seminar course for all our 8th graders, which is basically to get used, getting acclimated to our school, how to take notes, how to do homework. I just brought them all agendas. Maybe a little bit of, the Monomoy way, and talk about our community service programs, our clubs and activities, and slow it down for them and teach them what high school is about and transition them in nice and slowly. So that's something we had this year, but we're going to relook at that curriculum and make sure that we really target for those kids. You can read through some of the other things, but I'll end with the vision moving forward. And the most promising strategy for sustained, substantive school improvement is developing the ability of school personnel to function as professional learning communities. Dufour and Eaker, the godfathers and godmothers of professional learning communities. And these are some things that we're kind of looking forward to this year now that we've got some of the fundamental things in place that I've talked about. School Improvement Council. The last meeting that we had, we talked about a plan on a page. I was in the Bedford school system for 2 years, and we spent about 2 years on the school improvement plan. It was about 15 pages long, and I still don't remember what was on it. All right, it was crazy, too much. Something simple, something we can all agree on, that we all value, that when you walk into the school, a kid can tell you, this is what we value here, this is what's important, this is how we do it. So the way to do that is a plan on a page. And I just gave you an example of a school, I don't know if it's a great one or not, but just to set up an example, so next year I hope to come with a plan on a page to give to you with more school council improvement and staff, input. So that's the goal for next year, to have a specific plan drawn up with data and that kind of stuff to clearly show you. And then, we had a lot of things come up with the faculty this year that we just didn't have time to address. Little things that make big differences, like do kids need passes, supervision aware, do we need it or not? How much freedom are we going to give the kids during lunch? Okay, things that, we got great kids, so we got away with it, but we really want to look at all this stuff to make the culture even better. So we're starting a faculty senate next year, which is a volunteer staff that will commit to meeting together with myself and Mr. Alamo to talk about day-to-day issues, so they don't wait to a monthly meeting, or they don't wait and fester somewhere, and that they stream out and get out into the teaching community, to the kids that way. So that's something that will be really beneficial, so that a lot of the things we talked about tonight can be addressed on a regular basis with our staff. A PTO, not many high schools have it. Tina Gaines, who was on our school council, had brought the idea up to me, and I said it's a wonderful idea. I know she's soliciting information and has done a survey. There's a very positive interest in that. We're meeting this summer with anybody that's interested to join her to talk about how that will work at Monomoy. What a better way to communicate with the school than have that parents group come together on a regular basis, meet with the principal. Now the principals get information from the faculty senate, school council, meets with the PTO, it's open to everybody, and we have conversations. And that's really how it should be. That's why some of this stuff that festers is misinformation. Some of it's true, some of it's not, but people need to know, and that's fair. So these are some of the venues that we plan on implementing next year. So parents do have a voice. They do have a sit down with the principal, because I know everybody can't make a meeting with me. And so that's important to us, and we want to kick that up. My 5 minutes up?
A couple minutes.
I like to talk. And then the last one, I'm sorry, the new enrichment focus. We have the enrichment day every other Wednesday, and part of our, this is another example back to the student survey. The students survey was loud and clear that that was important to them. They enjoyed it. But they were also critical of some things. They said, we don't have any choice. You bring us all into an auditorium, and whatever you pick, we listen to. Some was good, some wasn't good. They were right. Kids love choices. You know, it goes back to my daughter, who's a diva, and got best dressed in school, and cost me a lot of money in clothing. Most of it's on the floor of her room. I should have known when she was about 10 years old. Her and my wife used to go at it all the time about what she was going to wear. Never inappropriate, just wanted her way, and my wife didn't see it that way. So we talked about it, and said, okay, let's give her a choice. So we picked 2 articles of clothing that were appropriate for my wife, and that she liked, put them on the bed, and said, okay, honey, you choose. It's your choice, we're not going to choose. Oh, thanks, Mom. And now we solved that problem. She had a choice. Okay, so choice is important. So now we're going to implement a menu for our kids next year, but not arbitrary choices for the kids. We're basing this on a student survey, back to the survey again, what kids thought they would enjoy and would enrich their experience here. So the choices will be developed by that survey. And the youth risk behavior survey that just came out, you know, we see it in Cape Cod, we see it in America. There's some issues mentally and emotionally and with drug abuse. We're going to attack that at our school, and we're going to educate the kids and work with them, social media. So all those things are going to be worked in the enrichment program with the help of our guidance team and local professionals. Any questions?
What kind of coffee do you drink?
You asked me that question the other day. I've been up since 4, so as long as they stay awake on the drive home, I'll be good. I'll get one for the ride. I drink a lot. Fair.
I would say that's exhaustive. We should schedule you for your own time next time instead of having others, because there's a lot of good information. I personally appreciate that you did such a great job on the Step Up Day, and there are many other things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. You know, as the radio commentator Paul Harvey says, there's the other side of the story. And Bill, I appreciate you being the salesman for this building, because you sell it, and we need to be proud about what we've done. And the thing about change, this is 1 year into it, change is a struggle, as you've said, and whenever you get creative conflict between folks, kids, teachers, parents, you're going to have some light and energy, and that's what we're struggling through right now. It's a 3, 4, 5 years before someone says, let's stand up and be proud with this. So I'm appreciative of hearing this. I said the other night at a building committee meeting, that was far more conflicting, that as a kid back in the early 50s, you could turn the radio on and listen to the Lone Ranger. And there was a part of the Lone Ranger radio program that the Lone Ranger said to Tonto, Tonto, I have a plan, and I will tell you as we ride. And you never heard the plan. Well, there's the plan. So that's what we'll be looking for in the next year and 2 years. So I appreciate that, Bill. And hopefully we'll get a gathering around you as we ride. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Brian.
Hard fault, act to follow, Brian.
I want to thank Mr. Burkett for permission to come forward. And I will try to be brief. First of all, to address very quickly and in complete agreement with Bill regarding the athletic director committee. It was a great privilege to serve as facilitator on that committee. The committee chose to interview many more people than on any committee that I have ever served on. Really looking at the possibility, wanting to be absolutely sure that the possibility of finding just the right person for this fit was completely explored. So I'm proud of what the committee did, and we all stood behind all the recommendations to the superintendent, who then made his choice, which is one that the committee universally supports. By the way, your first promise. And I can continue in the dark. Not to worry. I need to address the pink elephant in the room. Yes, I have made for me, a very radical decision in my professional life, which is propelled solely by a change in my personal life. There is absolutely no professional reason why I would want to leave the Monomoy School District. The hardest part for me is that I do have a very clear picture of what Monomoy Middle School will look like in 5 years as a teaching and learning community. The elements are there. We made an amazingly solid start this year in bringing this faculty together. As someone said to me the other day, in this building there is only one name, and that's Monomoy. And I'm very proud of that, proud of the faculty, proud of the work we have done. The arts are alive and well and flourishing in an overwhelming way at Monomoy Middle School, which speaks highly for the future of the district. As Bill mentioned, the power of teaming is amazing, and that's one of the things that has first lured me to and has kept me in a middle school administration job despite a lifetime of high school experience otherwise. When multiple heads come together, much better results happen. It is difficult to schedule a middle school, and the particular way that the district both negotiates a schedule has made it, and the unfortunate budget cuts that we face has made it even more difficult, but we believe we have a schedule ready. Our teachers also have been fully informed of what they will be teaching and where they will be teaching and when they will be teaching. The only thing that's missing is class lists, which will run out in the next week or so. So I think we're in excellent shape to start off the next year. I, of course, wish Ms. Wilson only the very best, because in his hands I pass on this vision of what I know Monomoy Middle School can be in 5 years. So a quick review on the materials that I have shared tonight. The first is the small brochure. One of the, for me, and as Bill mentioned, the school improvement plans, the final results, and the piece that goes in the file from school improvement meetings are really, for me, the least effective part of the experience. It's the time with professionals interacting with deeply caring parents, talking about interesting issues in depth and getting multiple perspectives, and out of those coming up with ideas that none of us would have thought of alone. That's where the value in these meetings lies. The brochure, in part, was inspired by those conversations. What's important here? What do we need to tell people about ourselves? How do we present ourselves? So that's where the ideas for the design and the production of the brochure that we used when we welcomed parents of fourth graders and talked about our school. The next page, why Monomoy Middle School? It is, in many classrooms, lie charts are a thing that teachers use. What should, and you can fill in the blank, what should group work, what should presentations, what should note-taking look like, sound like, feel like? And over a couple of meetings, we talked about, because we're building a brand new school culture, what should Monomoy Middle School look like, feel like, and sound like? And once we set those shoulds, then we can work to attain those things. So that's where this piece came from, and the school mission came from the conversations with the School Improvement Council. And I thank them for their hours of work and thoughtfulness, playing with each and every word that you see here. And then finally, in the summary page, are the items that we think going forward that the school needs to address most immediately. The technology and building infrastructure segment, I can report, is already well on its way, thanks to the voters in the two towns who have agreed to fund these things. The middle school, you may have noticed we didn't build a brand new middle school, but we did. And we've already built the most important part, the heart, the faculty and the students, and now we will improve the infrastructure to support that group of people. Academic programs, I have met nearly weekly all year long with Darlene Coy and Dr. Blanchard to talk about math instruction, math programs. The nation faces stagnant math scores. What might we do? We are, at this point, comfortable with the approach that we're taking in 5th grade, and we'll supply additional materials, but in 6th and 7th grade are going to embark on what will take several years to come to full fruition, but a blended learning approach that reaches out using the web as an additional teaching tool, and moving away from a single class presentation and topic for each day that applies to everyone, and instead moving towards learning stations and a variety of activities happening in a classroom, pulling out as few students as possible, pushing in as many adults as possible, so that we may walk into a math classroom and see 3, 4, 5, 6 things going on with 2, 3 adults working with those students, remediating maybe in one corner and excelling in yet another. So that is the plan going forward. World language, the committee knows that there was a decision made to eliminate French at the middle school. We are going to build a Latin and Spanish for all program. It is somewhat minimal contact time, but it does, the Latin program will be designed to support the ELA program, the Spanish program to build towards students who are ready to, in some cases, be ready for Spanish 2 in the 8th grade, and in most cases ready to excel in Spanish 1 in the 8th grade, so that when they finish 2 more years in high school, they would have some useful proficiency. Social studies program needs a review. We put that off. You can't do, as Bill said, everything in 1 year. You can put it all in a plan, but it just can't get done. So over the next year, it's time to take a look at where that will go. I want to give a nod, though, to the 6th grade social studies team teaching geography, which, believe me, can fall mildly flat in middle school, and has just flown. Both of these teachers have done a terrific job of creating a curriculum and very quietly, without any demands or materials. They were able to actually, using the web, find the world, because it's right out there at our fingertips now. So they have done a spectacular job. it is time to upgrade the ELA in-class libraries. That work wasn't done coming into the middle school, and bringing the two collections from the two towns together was somewhat successful, but is aged, both conditions of books, numbers, and choices. Young adult literature is exploding in quality and quantity, both luckily following each other. I think we'll see an enormous change in the school library over the next 2 years as it becomes a learning commons. It's an absolutely spectacular space for that to happen. We upgrade technology in the room, create a meeting space. We have an interactive ceiling hung projector now, so we'll be able to meet there with a team with 80 students. We've already had authors and a number of speakers who will have more appropriate furnishings and setting for that as in the future. And STEM, the STEM program has under, with Matt Barnes's assistance and Mike Newby working together, and if you looked in the dictionary under what is collegiality, look at these two guys. They are very different people who are creating a world where students start with, how does an idea become a thing? And that all things start with ideas. The younger students using simplest tools and more traditional approaches, and the older students moving towards building their own submersible devices for exploring water quality, which they took to the beach very recently. One did sink, but the others didn't, and collected information. It is amazing to me that I might still be working and find that much of a change has happened in our world. I personally believe that America's schools were created to create an environment for citizens to be born. And social emotional development is primary to that. I want to recommend to the committee and to anyone a book titled Our Kids, which sadly is not, is rather depressing. And it talks about the growing gap between the haves and the have-nots in our country and how we might address that. And one of the most telling points in the book is that schools didn't cause this. That test scores are not primarily a result of poor schools, but primarily a result of social circumstances. And that right now, the only hope we have for those kids who are already 10, 11, and 12 is schools. Because they're past that window of 1, 2, and 3 where those lifelong impacts were made. So I highly recommend the book, and as we redouble our efforts to make an impact, a positive impact on those kids' lives that haven't gone that well at this point. I must admit that hardly a day goes by when a student isn't coming to the office and we are saying to each other, I'm amazed that kid's even here today, never mind able to learn. So my hat's off to all of those kids who overcome amazing challenges to get themselves to school. And one of the things that came up in the survey, which it often does in all surveys, and I agree with it to some point, is communication. We did, halfway through the year, start up a weekly newsletter. My hat's off to Bill. I think that his weekly newsletter is just amazing, that he gets that out every week. And that's something we want to work harder at. I also think we need to challenge our parent community to take advantage of the communication that is there. There's one of the things we often do are Connect Ed calls. I put out one or more a week. And I always warn the secretary, Roberta, when I'm doing it, because what will happen immediately is the phone will start ringing. Somebody from here just called, what did you want? As opposed to, you could listen to the message. And I think it's a fair thing to say to folks that there's a lot of stuff coming home, and so listen up. I thank the committee, I thank my colleagues here in the district, and mostly thank the faculty at the Monomoy Middle School for giving me this opportunity. I am jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. I will swap off my 430 Monomoy students for 1,430 next year in a city setting. I'm excited and I'm scared and I will miss you all. Thank you.
And Brian, I just want to thank you for the past year. I've learned a lot from you. I've valued having you as a colleague. I think that you have left the middle school in a good place, and I know that Mark has a great platform to have our students launch and our staff launch from theirs. So thank you for being the transition guy and getting us to where we are today. Brian will be staying on. One of the things I asked Brian to do when he let me know he was going to move on, that he said, hey, scheduling a building is a challenging thing. So Brian will be staying on to work and get the schedules in, so that the students can get their schedules sooner rather than later. I've talked with Mark, and there's plenty of time that Brian and Mark will be able to overlap and in that process. So thank you again, Brian. Sam, here's your challenge. I will publicly apologize if your report is shorter than Bill's. And that might not.
That was 14 minutes.
And I will apologize. In this age of technology, I made copies. Barbara will get you a digital version of this, I'm sure, as soon as I get her the right copy. Real quickly, it's already too long, I know. 3 goals. The first one, and just to give you an overview, the goals at the elementary school in the last couple of years have been more of a 3 to 5 year mindset. Recognizing that it's really hard to accomplish something in 1 year, and then you start the school improvement plan all over. So we've had more of a long range vision on these. We've checked off a few. For example, well, I'll get to that later. The main goal here is what drives all of our instruction. Developing a multi-tier system of support, differentiating our instruction, having a clear vision as to how we meet the needs of the neediest and how do we stretch the minds of those that are at the other end of the spectrum. As we're coming together as a district, it's been a great opportunity for us to kind of check our own practices and then recognize that we did or didn't have a clear vision as to how to address every child's need, so that there's consistency from one class to the next. As we're looking at our counterparts in Chatham, again, there should be consistency, so as the students go to the middle school, they've had similar experiences and have had the same opportunity presented to them. So we're still working on this. This year we were kind of feeling our way through the time that was built into the schedule for the grade level teams to meet together, as well as having the early release Wednesdays, which are that consistent opportunity for us to take a problem, a case study, take it to the next level and follow it up again. So I'm really looking forward to us really getting down to work next year. Bring the 2 buildings together here at the middle school and the high school level. They've been a bit of a distraction, I have to admit. But now that they're settled, we've got leadership in place, we can get to work. One of the things that will evolve in September is 1 room from the reductions of classes and the shifting of building needs, resources. 1 room will be called a data room, where the teachers will come and meet during their collaborative learning time with charts of student progress, the fall, winter benchmarks. Being able to target a student and say, okay, Johnny's here, all right, why is he here and what can we do to get him here? And then come back next week or 4 weeks later, look at that, Johnny's up here, awesome, take him off the list, let's look at Susie over here. And doing that at each grade level, and then having the early release Wednesdays to collaborate with our colleagues down the road and build a district vision. So again, the protocols, academic, behavioral, instructional expectations become consistent across the district. The second goal really refers to more of the culture and the opportunities, again, that the schools are offering, both here in Chatham. We've had a number of things that have cross-pollinated, that have been increased, that actually in the survey were identified as wonderful strength, adding the Audubon Society to the Harvard experience. adding the Truro experience to the Chatham, those types of things, having that Unity Day. Those are things that will just continue to grow. And over the next year, we hope to be able to report out specifically all the things that have happened. I won't use this time to highlight some of that because time is short. But I could go as long as Bill, I guarantee you, if I try. Number 3, providing a safe and respectful learning environment. The master schedule, again, building a time for our classes to really develop our, we call it a responsive classroom model, where we really develop a community within a community, and making sure that throughout the year it's done with consistency, that the same message is being delivered and received. One of the things that is new this year is the upgrade of the playground, and you had a report about some funds that were handed over, actually through a student council that actually kind of came through the conversations. Mr. Hine, when we go to the playground, it's all muddy. You're right. You're on the same wavelength as the parents are and as we are. And next thing you know, they came back and there was nice, soft, new wood chips on there. And then, oh, but when are we going to fix the slide? You got it. We're on the right track. So we're all working together on that. I have to say the survey that was received is always interesting. It's always scary to hear what's going to happen. But on the average, 21% of the families in Harwich responded, which you always want more, but it's not bad. Could be better. It was kind of weird because I clustered the comments. 30% of the comments in the positive realm were on communication. Yet 10% of the comments, which is the second largest group in the negative world, were on communication. So you're communicating well for some, but not for others, which means we need to look at how we're communicating in the different venues. The website was a concern. It's a goal, and we're actually, as an administrative team, are going to address that this summer. And we did some steps in the right direction this fall, or this spring. We'll build on that. The start time was the biggest concern, and the early release time. So there was about 20% of the responses that addressed the timing of the day. The parent pickup was the other big one, but that seems actually, in all the comments, that it looks like it's improving. So the last month or so has been better on that. On the positive aspect, 50% of the comments were about the kind, supportive, wonderful staff, that their children had a wonderful experience. And I didn't count them all up because it was like almost every other one. Everything's great, which I know is a little bit too good to be true, but it's a nice thing to read. So on that note, I will turn it over to my colleagues from Chatham. Unless you have questions.
You're going to need questions.
Sam, I said I would publicly apologize. No more will I refer to you as the Monomoy's most verbose administrator. Somebody else not in the room now has that title. One of the nice things is Adam O'Shea, who's been the interim principal at Chatham Elementary School, has been working closely with Robin Millen, who will be the principal of Chatham Elementary School next year in the development of this piece.
Yeah, I'm going to hand this off to her right now.
You're going to report on 2030.
All right, I have, what I've done this year so far is planned while Sam is talking. So it's worked out well for me so far, but stopped tonight. So I waited for Bill to get done so he could make some copies for me. I didn't realize you guys didn't have the school council and the school improvement plan. So I'll just take a minute and talk about all the wonderful things that are going on at Chatham. Tonight, probably still going on, as long as Sherry Armstrong is true to form, is the talent show that started around 6:30 tonight. So I imagine it took about a little over 2 hours today. But what a great time the kids had preparing for that and performing it today. It was something to see, meeting that oral language standard today. So right in line with the Common Core. So just what I want them to be doing at this point in the year. A lot of fun, engagement, exciting. I said to a few parents and teachers, I'm like, we should do this in September, and they just looked at me and jaw dropped. So something you can implement. They're looking forward to it. September 17th. So I just want to talk a little bit the enrollment shifting of HES and CES. Just as you might have been made aware, Sam sent out a beautiful letter saying, get out of our school and come over to Chatham Elementary School, right? The door is open, and the door continues to be open, and that means I have been doing a lot of tours of Chatham Elementary with prospective students and parents, just to help them feel acclimated to the school, and they love it, of course. We have so much to offer. And speaking of offerings, as we continue to align some of the offerings between Harwich and Chatham, you'll, and probably Robin will speak about this as well. We have the Unified Arts that's shifting next year, and that looks like an increase in Spanish from what it was. Thank you. And as you may be aware, a decrease in physical education time during the week. And you may have questions on that. The other piece that I really, dedicate a lot of time to this year that is representative within some of the components of this school improvement plan is the PLC block. The alternate Wednesday release time for teachers has been a valuable time for a lot of collaboration, and I look forward to continuing to collaborate with teachers and having teachers collaborate with each other during that time. And if I can jump now into the school improvement plan on that note, one major undertaking this year for the elementary across the board was the implementation of the diagnostic reading assessment, and that is something that the staff was needed to brush up on at the minimum and learn from scratch for many, and that is a great undertaking, and the staff really tackled it this year and did a fine job, and that's something that we can take this information moving forward. It aligns with a lot of what the state is asking us to do as far as district determined measures, and a lot of what the school is looking for in having common assessments all the way up through. So it really gives us a gauge to work from for making data-driven decisions, as Sam noted. Just to help you, I asterisked a few pieces that I thought you would find important. And I just mentioned the DRH2. The other piece, the first one, under accountability, I just want to mention that the report cards is something that we really need to address. And right now we're sitting with 2 different report cards between the 2 elementary buildings. And that's something that we got to figure out, and it'll help teachers in, one, just identifying what standards we're looking for in that within the report card, and so we can build lessons and units based on those. So it's part of our alignment and part of the work that we'll be doing during our PLCs as well. You didn't know I could go long, did you? Figure it's my last chance here. Anyway, under collaboration, I just want to note a few things that we've really accomplished. We've exhausted, I think, the art of charity. They don't call us anymore. They don't answer either. But we have $4,000 grant money from the other charity that's going towards rejuvenating the playground area, which is in desperate need. I think it may be a KitKat thing to have a sand playground, right? It makes sense. Just won't call it dirt. The other piece there, we've really done a lot of community outreach, or not community outreach, we've done that too, but we've extended our school, I guess, to the community. One major way has been joining up with Harwich as well, going to the Harwich Junior Theater, just to get kids knowing what's going on within their community. Another one is the sailing. that all the third graders were able to go sailing under a grant that allowed them to do so, which is just a wonderful opportunity, and many of them don't get that opportunity. And John Dixon, I think he was a teacher here, and he commented how a lot of the kids come all the way up through and don't even have that opportunity to go sailing, and what a great opportunity it is for all our third graders. We're able to do that this year. Except for like one or two that were really scary. So, we'll get them. Under communication, the Chatham Scoop, you guys have received that throughout the year. I commend Bill and his ability to put that out every week. Every Friday I would get his and be like, how do you do it, man? I never truly asked him because I didn't want a long-winded response. So the Chatham Scoop is something that hopefully I can pass on. That's something Gayleen handed to me. I worked on it. And here you go, Robin. Sam, I imagine you'll be giving me something. The next piece is under curriculum, there's plenty of work that we continue to do with the PLCs and within the PLCs and reviewing the curriculum we're using and curriculum components. This has been an area that's been an area of frustration for a lot of teachers as far as what resources would you like us to pull from. So this is something specifically that we continually need to address. It's something we do, but it's something we need to continue to do. Specifically, we need to look at our math programming moving forward to see that it's not just aligned across the elementary buildings, but also aligned with what's going on in the middle school. And did I asterisk anything else? Oh, the PBIS. If you were at Chatham at all this year, you would have heard about the new shark incentives that we had going on, where we celebrated being sharks, which you all know is safe, honest, accepting, respectful, kind students. And so we had a lot of sharks and a lot of kids receiving shark awards throughout the year. In fact, we had classroom initiatives where you earn sharks into a shark tank, and then that shark tank would go into a bigger tank, and then the bigger tank meant we had some huge reward, which was a really good time, which was a barbecue that they really enjoyed. So, and they also had classroom-based incentives going on as well. It was just our push to have the students or have the staff really embrace the positive things that are going on. Bethany Valine had a lot to do with making sure that was a success throughout the year. So, any questions for me?
I see Lexi has started.
Yes, Lexi has started this year. That's been an initiative that we were able to support through Title I funds. And it's something that will continue throughout the summer. It assesses students at first, and then it allows students to practice at their own instructional level.
Makes my household happy in the morning.
It makes Nancy's house happy.
Screen time is allowed in the morning as long as it's Lexi.
That screen time over the summer will count as minutes towards the rewards at the Brooks Library too.
And a Chatham.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Robin and what the future.
You thought you were done, right? So, based off what we had discussed, I'm Robin Millen, by the way. I will be
I'm over here.
into Chatham next July. So I spent a lot of time with Adam over the last couple of weeks, but I also told the committee when I came on board that I was already taking in some needs assessment data when they were asking me questions during the interview process. A lot of times when teams come together to meet with candidates and things like that, the parents and the staff, they ask you questions that they want to hear what you're going to do or what you think is the vision for the district. So based on that, I would ask the committee for some time to get to know the staff and the families and the stakeholders in Chatham. I've learned very much about Harwich, and I'm hoping to spend some time learning more about Chatham so that we can really develop a school-wide improvement plan that really meets the needs of Chatham and also Monomoy as a district. Oftentimes, and I commend the committees that have put together school-wide improvement plans for 2013, 2015. It ends this year, so it's a good time to come on board and kind of look over what's been done, review the goals that have to continue through the elementary school, but also then move forward. And also look, the plan that they had in place was a very rigorous plan, and I commend Bill for saying a school-wide improvement plan on a page is a great idea. Something that's specific, something that's measurable, something that we really know echoes what we're looking for. A lot of times teams put together plans and they're not really they think they know the problem, but they're really not sure what the problem is. And then they go and they try to solve that problem and they have the same problem. So really digging down this year and looking at the needs that we have, really getting to know everybody that's involved, and then setting a plan. So what I have for you is basically a blueprint. It's not a plan, because I do need to pull, and we need to pull some more data together. And on this plan that I have, I'd like to collect some surveys, do some quick needs assessments. Mark had talked about a similar need assessment that I've done previously. When you get a bunch of stakeholders together, you ask them basically 3 questions. You say, what's going well, and how do we know it's going well? You ask them, what do we need to improve, and why do we need to improve it? And then what are the things that we just don't want to change because they are part of us? So I intend to do that, open up the school this summer and have some meet and greets. I'd like to get out into the community and go to different organizations within the community, the Rotary, make some appointments to meet with them, talk with the rest of the administrative team and get some information. So in front of you, you have kind of the themes that have emerged over the last couple of months that I've been here with Monomoy, but also from the survey that came in, from the communication survey that both the district did. It has the components as to what we'll pull together to develop the next school-wide improvement plan. Some projected outcomes or goals is in the 3rd column, and then I'm asking the committee that I will give you a goal and give you a plan for October 23rd, so that I can really make sure that our plan for Chatham is what we need to have happen. So the first theme that has emerged is the curriculum instruction theme. My colleagues have done a nice job explaining that. The elementaries are lucky because we do have historical data. We have the MCAS, we have the DIBELS, we have a lot of the data that we have collected over the years, not necessarily as Monomoy, but as our independent districts, but we do have some good sources of data, so we'll pull that together. We'll look at the needs assessment, again, just informally and formally from the students. Even at our level, we can ask the students what's going well, they'll tell us. And then parents and staff. The school profile data is always a component that you want to pull together. PLC information, we've had a very, I love the system that's here with the early dismissals, the PLCs, the data that we collected this year, all the initiatives that have been put into place. We're going to look over all of that. I think we're going to look definitely at the vertical alignment as well as the horizontal alignment now, looking at the pre-K-12 district as a whole. The unit development and analysis that we've done this year, we started a process this year called Critical Friends. We started as the administrative team, came together and we looked over different things, and the process asked you to be very critical about feedback and information, things like that. We brought that down to the staff this year. We asked them to be a critical friend on unit analysis. We'll do more of that next year. Evaluation tool will take some data from the 2015 school climate survey and the current research that is out there on curriculum and instruction. And then this summer we've been asked by the district administration to, as an elementary team, do a reading achievement case study. So we will take a look at reading achievement, and then we will do a case study as to, again, what's working, what do we need to improve on, what can we move forward on. So the projected goals are there, very similar to what the rest of the committee has said already, so I won't go over them, but also you want to remember that curriculum instruction is not just reading and math. We've got to look at our social studies, our arts, our UAs, all of those things as well, and how are we integrating that. Mark had a great statement at his opening yesterday about writing throughout the curriculum and reading throughout the curriculum. Very important part and component that we should be looking at into the future as well. So that is for curriculum instruction. Systems and communication management was a big theme that emerged out of the feedback that we've got this year in 2015. Review of the data management systems we have aligned as a district goal over the summer, and then a needs assessment. I ran a very productive needs assessment in my previous district about communication and learning management systems. I would like to rerun that at some point this year with this community here. We came up with some very out-of-the-box kind of strategies and goals during that, bringing the information and the communication to the public, not asking the public to come into our buildings. riding on the tail of maybe Bill a little bit and maybe doing a little more of the, yes, I woke you up back there. The Friday focus, maybe bringing that to the middle school and elementary school, getting the information out to parents. A lot of our parents, especially with young children, find it hard to come into these meetings when they're going this late at night. Broadcasting them is always a good thing, but we should be doing that for informational sessions, celebratory sessions, everything that we do in our schools, making sure that people have access to what we are and who we are, those kind of things. So I'd like to do that this year. Engagement, again, it kind of goes in with that community and families, the student engagement as well. I separated that on the plan into family engagement and student engagement, and you can see again the components that we'll collect, and hopefully the increase in participation, both the celebratory and the informational, and then the student engagement to achieve the raising the achievement scores as well. Another thing that I came out of the survey that I saw was attendance. Attendance and arrival times, dismissal times came out of the survey, tardies, things like that. So I did add that to this blueprint. It's something we have to look at, especially at the elementary level, making sure that our students are in school, making sure they're there to receive the instruction that we have for them, and what are we doing if they're not. Again, we can bring the instruction to them if we need to, but we have to make sure that we're offering that ability for them. So I have that down there as well. The PBIS was the other thing that was on as far as student engagement and communication with the PBIS in Chatham. I would, when I came on board, I did an RTI innovation, MTSS innovation evaluation at Harwich as far as our multi-tiered system of support and how are we servicing all of our children through our 3 tiers of support. We've innovated, we've done a rubric in Harwich. I would like to bring that information over to Chatham, and I would like Chatham to bring their information on PBIS over to Harwich. So doing some of that work together will make less work for all people, but will also let us move forward on the systems of support. And the last thing is play. On the last page, it's already started. The physical plant was an emerging theme that came out very quickly. I think it was the first thing Scott told me to get on when I accepted the position, and that is the playground at Chatham. It needs a substantial amount of work. One of the children told me it was like a swamp. And then another child said, oh, we dig for coal. And another child found something that was very valuable out there once. So I'm not sure if we have an archaeological field out there or if we actually have a playground. So I have met already several times with a parent group, and it includes some staff members, the PTO is involved. The problem with the playground is bigger than just a playground, an elementary playground. It involves a water drainage system, a swale, is that what it's called? A swale underneath the playground that involves the town and rerouting drainage, and that's as far as I understand. So it's going to be a much bigger project. So as far as in the improvement plan, I put that we need short-term goals, which we're depleting the
Veterans Field.
Yeah, well, I'll give you that too. We're depleting that grant from
Arts Charity.
Arts of Charity to get some temporary fixes, and then we're going to have to do a full look at who owns what, who owns where, whose responsibility is it to pay for what, and we will do that. So we need to create a plan in conjunction with the town, and so I have to get on and find out who they have to be, that I have to meet with. So, but we have to have playgrounds.
Any questions? I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Good luck, Robin. And, I think you're very capable of doing this, and I really want to commend Dad. I think of Bill's comment about that second phase of interviews for potential final 3 candidates, where you have kids fill out a survey and 2 or 3 teachers might sit in on that class that that candidate hopeful would be given a positive. But you had that all year, Adam. Every day you had kids and you had mothers and dads and teachers. And it was a challenge, especially for an in-house candidate. So I want to commend you. And hopefully you certainly have paved the way for Robin. And rather than we all live the disappointment, this could be a nice experience of fine-tuning. Because clearly you had not the opportunity of looking into another school operation, come and talking about it, but you had the ups and downs of 180 days of what it is to live a school. So from us, I want to say thanks for that, because it takes grit to throw a hat in the ring and then come up still standing. So best of luck for next year.
Thank you.
I just wanted to comment, if you ever want to get a glimpse on some of the challenging decisions the superintendent has to make, try to choose between those two. It was the most difficult decision I've had to make all year, bar none. And for Adam, I'm so glad that you'll be with us. The intent is to have Adam as the assistant principal at Harwich Elementary School next year. The one thing that I will miss is these random bump-ins with Adam at his best. And one of the things I like to do in the mornings is just kind of get close to water and decompress. And I remember a few weeks back, I'm like driving down the road, heading to Stage Harbor, figure I'm just going to kind of hang out there for 5 minutes, then head into the office. And I see this guy, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice. It's like a father and son running down the road together. And I'm like, the father's wearing a Monomoy sweatshirt, and he's running with a kid. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, that's not one kid, there's 20 kids. And Adam had this wonderful way of being the Pied Piper at many times of Chatham Elementary School, and just bringing hordes of children with him. And to see Adam out there running in the mornings with kids who are showing up, I don't know, what, hour and a half early so they could do 3 miles with you. It's pretty impressive. And I think that Bill ended one of his things is to have fun. I mean, that's one of the things that Adam really brought is fun to Chatham Elementary School, and I know he's going to bring fun to Harwich Elementary School and whatever school he's with. So thank you so much for the past year, and I'm glad that you're with us.
Next on the agenda, subcommittee reports. Any subcommittee? Okay,
Did I get that collaborative agreement?
Superintendent's report.
I was hoping Ms. Schofield would stay here. I'll give her a call tomorrow to talk to some of her points, and I just wanted to talk to about some of the things that each of the folks that came up during public comment raised. I thought Bill actually did a nice job of talking about the athletic director hiring process, and I think the one thing I just want to sort of emphasize from my point as superintendent, when you have hiring committees, you turn over power to a hiring committee, and they put forward finalists, and on my end, I reach out to hiring committees and say, okay, you're sending me 3, which is the one you really most want? And I figure I owe it to a hiring committee to respond if I feel differently. And sometimes I do. There are times I call up the principal and say, I liked the other person, and this is why, and have to report back to our hiring committee. But yeah, I heard from Bill and Brian and a hiring committee, and I validated their decision when it came to an athletic director. And it's not me invalidating a lot of the great work that Paul DeMonch has done for us. It's me validating a process that went on through the school. In terms of one of the things that Brenda brought up, 51 staff members leaving. It's not 51. It's I think 32 at the moment. I'll have to. Yeah, so it's 32. 32 still a lot. And I think that what was portrayed is that all 32 are leaving because they don't want to be here, they're dissatisfied. I think that there may be a few that are. There are also a lot of those 32 that are leaving because it's their time in their life. I had just before I came to this meeting, Katie and I were in a meeting that had one of the 32 who was talking to us about the things that she's looking forward to doing in retirement, and it's that time. Some of the staff that are in that group are not continuing on, and for other reasons,
But one of the things that, that people should know that, we've been going through a hiring process for each one of the slots that's, that is being replaced. And we are having fabulous candidates that are coming in that want to be here, that are energized. So that's a piece of it. I really think with each of these folks that are retiring, we're seeing new excitement and ideas coming into the school district. And at the same time, I had one mother was emailing me about a Chatham Elementary School teacher who they have loved for years, who's retiring and looking forward to spending the next many years with with grandchildren. As she's going to miss that teacher, and I know that we have other great teachers coming into that position. So that's a piece of it. The other piece of it that people also need to understand is that every one of those retirees, if their professional staff are getting a $10,000 early retirement incentive, and if their support staff are getting a $6,000 early retirement incentive. There's a reason behind that too. As we came into this district, we lost, and in the process of regionalization, those teachers and staff members low on the salary scale. This was a district that was largely, everybody was at the top end of the salary scale. So every person that's leaving is being on average, and I would say on average, replaced by someone more affordable. And the delta between those two more than offsets the early retirement incentive to the tune in the out years in FY17 and 18. This is going to save the district over $660,000 that we'll be able to go and support our program and support the education of our students. So that's a piece of this. The other thing I want to also emphasize is that we're not replacing outgoing teachers with year one person, never had experience. On average, our teachers have 5 to 6 years experience that are coming in. So we have teachers that have 13 plus years of experience on average leaving, and teachers that have 5 or 6 years experience coming in. My first hire is standing in the back of the room. I know that one of our biggest concerns at the middle school is we have our longtime middle school guidance counselor is retiring. Paulette's been there at Chatham Middle School for ages. Paulette let us know that she was going to be retiring this year, no matter what. Even she let us know even before we had put on the table an early retirement incentive. But we only have one middle school guidance counselor. I wanted to make sure that we went out and got the best middle school guidance counselor we could find. Not the cheapest, the best. My wife was screaming at me because the middle school counselor in her middle school happened to be coming to Monomoy Regional Middle School. I was okay with that. But I'm glad we have staff like Kristen Hayden coming. And so we have Paulette Jones, fabulous guidance counselor, leaving. Another fabulous guidance counselor in terms of Kristen coming in. And we have that happening at every one of these staff positions. So I think what Bill was summarizing about the hiring process that has been going on here, we've got great teachers coming in. And yes, we have some very beloved staff that have been here a long time that are leaving, and some of them are leaving because it's just that time in their life. Some of them are leaving because the superintendent said there's $10,000 if you want to go. But it also, that's going to save our district in those out years. That was a huge part of the conversations we've been having over the last several months as we've gone into these finance committee meetings. It's like, how are we going to be financially stable? Well, we need to get some balance into the staffing. And again, it's not replacing it with person walking in off the street. It's replacing with the best candidates we can. The other thing that was raised were questions about business, and I just want to kind of talk about that. I actually agree with many of the things that Denise Sessler was talking about, and I think that, you know, particularly when she was raising this want to see more math. The reality of this is, as we went into the scheduling process, and I believe Denise even, you know, talked about this, I was saying that ultimately it's what kids sign up for that needs to drive where our program goes. For the last 2 years, the most popular elective that students have signed up for was culinary arts. And that was the one thing that we have had the smallest number of staff. And we had a 0.4, is that right, Bill? A 0.4 culinary arts teacher. And we have 81 students signed up as their primary course that they wanted as culinary arts 1. That's over twice what they signed up for, for any of our business courses. But it's not necessarily about culinary arts and business. It's just trying to figure out, okay, how do we go and give as many kids that primary thing that they signed up for? The other challenge you have when you build a high school schedule is how many singletons are you going to have? One of the things that we were doing as we were looking at this schedule and trying to put together this schedule for this year is trying to sort of step back, because I think a mistake we made scheduling students for this academic year is we were trying to offer too many things all at the same time. It created too many singletons, too many classes that had disparate numbers of students in the classes, rather than trying to say, okay, let's focus and do certain classes certain years, certain classes the other years, or sort of narrow the offerings and do fewer things well, so that we don't have as many singletons in that program of studies. The challenge that we had is that many of our business classes, to start with, we are one of 3 schools on the Cape at the moment that in a program of studies has a wide offering of business classes. It's ourselves and Nauset, which is significantly larger as a school and could afford to have a wider range of classes, and then Mashpee High School. 2 of the high schools on the Cape, the largest high school being Barnstable, don't even offer business classes. But most of the high schools, schools like Falmouth, Bourne, and DY, have narrowed and focused the courses that they're offering on math-related business classes. I agree, there should be accounting, and accounting focused on math. I've shared with both Bill and with Carla, I think the direction we need to go is looking at math-related business courses, a smaller focus. We're a small school. We can't do everything. We need to do fewer things well. For instance, at Bourne, they have a course that's on business math, personal finance, and accounting. Each of those courses get math credits. It addresses some of the concerns that Denise had. Or Ms. Sessler had, that are there students who need a math that they have had all the way up to calculus. They aren't quite ready for calculus, but they could use some math that might prepare them for a business sector job or a job in the local economy. And I think it's important that we develop those courses. So we have a direction we need to go in the program of studies. We've been talking about, as an administrative team, where we need to go on the business end. We've also had other conversations just where we need to go in other academic areas. And one of the things that's lacking completely in the program of studies is physics. I mean, we don't have an array of physics courses. And for that matter, we really don't have a teacher dedicated to physics, which most schools our size should have, and bigger schools would have multiple physics teachers. So we went through the hiring process. We tried to find a physics person, which I will admit, when it comes to hiring, is like finding a needle in a haystack. We didn't find one. We've flipped it over now from physics to a 1-year biology posting. We'll teach biology classes, and we'll be going out in February trying to find a physics teacher next year so we can build in physics classes. But it's again trying to evolve the program of studies to, to fill the things that aren't there, but also to start to look at the program of studies and say, okay, we need to, what areas don't we have that we need to enhance, and what areas do we have that might be too broad that we need to focus. So one of the things that, that will be happening, we will continue to have personal finance at high school. We also, going into next year, will be offering next year a sort of a personal finance or a finance course for our middle school students to give them, again, some more applied math experiences when it comes to how to manage their own, their own money, which is, again, I think some of the conversations we had at the table is that that's an important class for students to have, or important concepts to have, and it gives students a chance to use and apply math. So, just directions, some directions and where I see us going in the out years. The last thing I just wanted to bring up is the building and this physical plant and some of the conversations that happened recently since our last school committee meeting at a building committee. My weeks are blurring together. Was it last Thursday? Last Thursday, I delivered a letter to Fontaine Brothers, who are our general contractor, to very strongly express my displeasure as the superintendent with the state of the HVAC system on this building. We had a meeting last Thursday that had all the parties, the engineer who designed the system, the manufacturer of, which is Train Heating, Ventilation, that manufactured the units, the architect, the architect's engineer, the contractor. There was a lot of finger pointing this direction and that direction on why the units are failing. And the reality is the units on this building are failing at what everyone will agree, and they've agreed in writing, is at an unprecedented rate. So something is wrong with the units that are on the building, or power that's coming into the building or something. And as I put it, at the end of the day, I don't care what the issue is, it needs to be fixed. The letter clearly stated to the contractor that I would prefer not to go there, that I was just putting them on notice that we will go after the contractor's performance bond if there's not action immediately on addressing the rooftop units. There's been a flurry of emails that have been going on. Fontaine Brothers has responded back that they're going to be working on this. So there's an intent to move forward, and it seems that every day there's more challenges with a heating and ventilation system on this building, and I just want to make sure that at the end of the day, the taxpayers and community members are getting what they paid for, a building that is quality all around. And at the moment, Fontaine Brothers has done a fantastic job with everything, but some subcontractor work that unfortunately involves 15 heating and ventilation units on the roof is a lingering concern for many that are dealing with the building project.
Thank you. Moving on to action items. Vote to approve the USDA mandatory lunch price increase. You all have a piece in your packet. As presented, you want to speak to this again as you did last meeting?
We had a coordinated program review, and one of the findings from the Department of Ed was that our lunch prices did not meet the mandatory dollar based on the calculation on meals served. So we need to raise the prices from $2.50 to $2.55 to be in compliance with the USDA food service program.
Left hand side.
I'll make the motion. I move that we increase the rate of our school food lunch program from presently $2.50 to $2.55 per the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education Child Nutrition Program.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Seeing how we haven't done the subcommittees, shall we bypass OPEB?
I think for one more meeting.
Vote to establish a Harwich Elementary School playground revolving account. This followed up on last meeting's donation.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. We already accepted chapter 152, section 69. And we have a declaration of surplus equipment. And finally, someone else is going to have the opportunity.
You still can do it, can't you? I'll take over that role. I move that we declare Old Harwich Public Schools administrative office signs, 2 of them, as surplus.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
I have a question.
Any discussion? Questions?
What is going to happen? I mean, I don't know anything more than the picture, but do you think somebody might be wanting to buy something like that? What do we do with it when we declare surplus?
They become defunct. That's what happens.
We throw them in the trash or?
Historical artifact.
I think there's a member of the community that's interested in it as a
Okay.
historical artifact.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We are in need of an executive session this evening, so.
Did I say that out loud?
Before we do that, could I ask that we put 2 things on the agenda for next time? Discussion about the upkeep of grounds, because I know nothing about that. And the other thing is, to the program of studies for these kids where they wanted to sign up for the business and need things to know further what will happen with all that, so we can officially discuss it. And the other thing is that this is our last meeting for this fiscal year, and we've got all these teachers and staff retiring, and I just think we should acknowledge that some people have put in decades and a lot of heart and sweat and fabulous skills and a huge contribution to our community and school system. So will there be is there a letter coming out that we should all be signing? And did the teachers get something when they retire saying something like that?
Well, I send, there's a letter that comes out of my office to each and every one. We could replicate something like that on behalf of the school committee as well.
I would love that to be instituted for in the future.
We are in need of an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law 38, Section 21, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining units with non-union contracts. I will take a roll call. Sharon?
Aye.
So moved.
So moved.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And we will not be going back to general session.